open the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission for August 3rd, 2022. I move that we open the meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are still operating under the Emergency Act regarding COVID. It has been extended.
Hold the one second. Thank you. Nice. Sorry about that, Chair Half Out.
The emergency order has been extended to March 31st, 2023. We will continue hybrid meetings until that time. In the event of a technological failure, if the Zoom portion is no longer operable, the meeting will continue in this room live. I want to point out what the protocol for our meetings is. The applicants in front of us have 5 minutes to present their application. The Conservation Administrator has 1 minute for comments. The Commission will then spend 10 minutes discussing. Public comment will then be open. Only new information needs to be brought forward at that point. All comments are to be addressed to me as the chair or the hearing officer if we are in a hearing. I will not entertain any comments that are not civil and respectful, and that is non-negotiable. With that,
Great. We have a lot of minutes.
we are going to vote to approve minutes.
Can I kind of lead us through that a little bit? One second. Can you go to get printout and take form 2?
Okay, the 419 minutes, this only pertains to the 4 of us who were on the commission at that time.
However, all commissioners could vote if they so choose, or as I did in Norwell, I would abstain when I was not present. That is the option of the 3 new commissioners. There were comments, Chair Hannafin, from Joe on these. They were pretty minor. They were, thank you for that, Joe. Thank you for the effort. Minor but important. Thank you. And I see page 3 and 4. I will capture those.
All
So
right.
as edited.
So I move that we vote to approve the April 19th, 2022 minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe Lane.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain?
Okay, so 2 abstained, so I'm gonna give you, now I got 3. How many more? Okay, I got 4-0. I got a 4-0-3, okay? 3 abstaining, 4 approving, okay? Is there any
Okay.
question? We'll go through a roll call if we have to. Is there any question? Good. All right.
Next, I move that we vote to approve the minutes of the July 6th, 2022 meeting as edited.
I got comments from Bert O'Donnell. These were circulated in time for the July 20th meeting. Nobody else commented. Just want to make that known for the record. I have those comments.
May I have a second?
Second.
Give it to John because he's new.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain?
I got 3 abstains. We're going to do the same thing here. 4-0-3. Okay, good practice.
And lastly, I move that we vote to approve the minutes of the July 20th, 22 meeting as edited.
I have comments from Bert, Joe, Craig, and Susan on that one, and I'm editing. I get those in there also.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Joe?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
Okay, got 1 abstention on the 20th. Okay. All right. All right. So I got a 6-01 on that. Any other abstaining on this? Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm behind on the minutes. We're going to get you caught up.
All right. We move to the business items. The first being the de minimis activity roll. 276 Careswell Street. This is a shed on a property within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. The homeowner wants to replace his 8x10 shed and gravel foundation with a 10x14 shed. The existing footprint will be expanded to accommodate the new shed, but it will be expanded away from the resource area and toward the home. We have 3 commissioners who have approved this as a de minimis, so this is a procedural ratification. Would Michael like to read special conditions?
Yes, this one, the special conditions are ensure best management practices are followed, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities. And if I may, just a quick note, the larger shed will be expanded towards the home and not towards the resource area.
Thank you. I move that we vote to approve the replacement of a shed and necessary gravel foundation work as a de minimis activity with special commissions. May I have a second?
Second.
Who's that?
Ken Dodge.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Chair Hannafin? Right, or we stay, you're good?
Aye, no, aye.
All right, Chair Hannafin, we have come up with a new speedy way of doing this for you. We've got everything on the screen for you also now.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, we've been working hard to try to be better.
Okay. This is 202 Arlington Street. We have hazardous trees that are actually on town-owned conservation land. They are within the 25 to the 50-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The homeowner would like to cut 3 trees that are located on this property. The trees have been dead for some time and are in close proximity to the home. Once again, we have commissioner approval from 3 commissioners, so this is a procedural ratification. Would you read the special conditions, Michael?
Yes, the special conditions are as follows: ensure best management practices are followed, obtain all subsequent building permits, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. The root system shall be left in the ground. Cut trees to 4 feet above ground to allow for regrowth, and see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
I move that we vote to approve the cutting of 3 trees within the buffer zone to wetlands as a de minimis activity with special conditions. May I have a second?
Second.
Susan?
All in favor? Aye.
There's one more above that, Chair Hannafin, to allow them to cut on conservation land.
I move that we vote to approve the cutting of 3 trees on town-owned conservation land. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe?
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, and then I guess we should just convey that that is all the permitting that's required, and I know Mrs. Sanders is here. However, you need to work with the tree warden and the DPW to get those taken down, or their contractors. That's the next step. Now you have this information. It'll be part of the body of meeting minutes. If you need it, we'll get it to you. They need to call us. Mike or I will help you out. But now you're permitted. Now you have to work with the right department to get it done. Very good. All right.
Thank you. All right, 20,
Yeah, that's a duplicate.
that's a duplicate.
Yeah, I did a bad thing.
No, that's okay.
Well, what's a meeting without a bad thing, right?
Let's hope it's the only one.
Right on.
B3 is 36 Liberty Road. This is a deck expansion and new stairs.
Here.
The homeowner would like to increase the size of his deck and add a staircase for access. A wetland delineation by Brooke Monroe, who is a qualified wetland scientist, confirms that the proposed deck expansion would be just within the 25-foot buffer to the wetland line. Land subject to coastal storm flowage AE9 is present on the property, but not in the area of proposed work. This project would be moving towards the resource area and would also place 2 new footings 24 feet from the wetland line.
Alrighty. I closed that great screen we had,
So,
affecting our efficiency. And then we had just down here. I have it, Chair Hannafin. I think this
Okay.
will be really helpful to you.
so the question is this an RDA or a de minimis?
And here's what you're looking at. Brooke Monroe did this, and she uses these kind of tools. And so here is the proposed here. He's going to be coming out with a deck here, and he's pushing out. You can see a little bit closer towards the wetland, but they don't get inside the 25 there. They come right up to the 25. If they were inside the 25, commission might have an issue because nothing can be inside the 25, even though we do have some disturbance inside. They're locked in the 25. And we thought this image would serve the best purpose to show you what they're trying to do. They currently have a deck that's right about where these stars are, right over the word deck, and they're moving out just ever so slightly with a new set of stairs. We thought you'd consider it a de minimis, but the commission could also go with a requested determination of applicability or a notice of intent, because you're so close to the resource area.
Commissioner comment?
I think I heard two different things. Inside 25 or outside 25?
I sat on the 25. He moves closer to the 25 is what I said.
24 feet from the line.
Yeah, what I have
Is there one?
is
It's
24.
24 feet from the line.
There is one on 24. My bad.
So we're
There's two
inside
of
the
them.
25 by a foot.
Right.
Yes.
He could go with a request for determination of applicability or an NOI based on that. Mr. Lover's been very cooperative, but that's the facts. Sorry about that. Wasn't trying to cloud it. Mike's really got better command of this one.
When was the house built?
Don't have the date, so
unsure of
sorry.
that
We,
one.
we actually did not do that research. We will make that sure that we do that next time. I'm gonna say prior to 72, this whole area was built out before 72 and before the act.
I am comfortable with de minimis. Does anybody think this requires an RDA, or
Well,
do you want an
My feeling is it's a staircase, it's egress, they must need this, so I guess agree with de minimis, simply because it's going closer, but it is a means of egress from the deck.
I think that's true. Most of that change is there. It is post for the most part. These things are elevated up, so even though you have coverage, you're picking up the posts. So you think about it, it's well under a square foot, you know what I mean? It's not gonna,
Right.
tiny amount, it's buffer zone here, so. Commission has discretion. It should use it when it needs to.
And if the homeowner has,
He's been very cooperative. He's
Very
been down
cooperative.
5, 6 times to talk to us about this.
okay. I move that we approve this as de minimis with special conditions. Michael, do you want to read the conditions?
Yes. The special conditions for this project are as follows. Ensure best management practices are followed. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. And see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
That'll do.
May I have a second?
Second.
This is it right here.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Because I duplicated this.
Okay, now we are on to the Couch Beach Conservation Restriction language.
We had 3 things, Chair Hannafin. We had article, sorry about that. We had porta potties, which I was tasked to get solved, and there's a timeliness of that, so that's on there. The conservation deed conveyance, Article 97, and then the restriction, which is the key thing. The other 2 are housekeeping items, but the conservation restriction is where all the conversation would be.
Why are we voting on Article 97?
Well, so Article 97 is the mechanism that was voted at by town meeting in April 2021 to convert Couch Beach from the DPW to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. And fall town meeting 2021, Article 97 was voted to convert the land from conservation, from DPW to the Conservation Commission. So those tools are the mechanism that would achieve that and allow the project to go forward and also conclude the old ones. The conservation restriction is where the language with the permissions and the prohibitions would be discussed. And it can be layered on as we discussed at length. And it just makes the properties more protected if that, not anything. So they're just a conveyance tool is what the Article 97 is. Had you only gone with Article 97, you could achieve the permissions or prohibitions, but that's not necessary now. So it's
Right,
just a
because we're doing a conservation restriction,
So you would
which
layer-
is legally required because this is an exchange for NHESP habitat.
Right, and again, the natural heritage will accept either Article 97 under the town, under a deed conveyance, which is what was approved at the two town meetings, or the conservation restriction. The last thing they'll accept is all three things, or both things, and typically what they expect is the Article 97 to go first, followed by the conservation restriction, so we're working in the right direction.
Okay, because the conservation restriction was passed at town meeting.
That was the CPC funding, but the commission made a vote that they wanted the conservation restriction so long as the commission could amend and finalize, which is what you're doing right now.
This is what we're doing.
So you're on target, so.
Okay.
There's no issue.
I want
Porta
to,
potties, yeah, want to go there?
no, first I want to talk about the CR. I want it to be very clear that there will be no change to the existing usage of the Couch Beach camping area. And I am going to let Commissioner Karen amplify on this, as she has been working on the restriction with Wildlands Trust.
First, I'm just seeing the comments from the task force, Bill, that you guys
Yep,
have done.
thank you for asking.
And
Diane.
so what I want to do is just dovetail these two things together. And
It'll
so,
be great, because I do have the police and fire and
Right,
town
right.
administrator here, we can give you a quick
So
update.
I'm just seeing this for the first time, and what is jumping out at me is this last paragraph.
Oh.
First of all, as we all know, the goal of the conservation restrictions was to, with specific regards to the Couch Beach area, for it to remain open and the historical activities that have always gone on will continue. However, the conservation restriction will be a catalyst to help manage the property, to maintain the conservation value of the property. And so that would mean probably improvements, and I think those are the things that you're suggesting.
Yeah, I think that's.
And so
yeah,
what
right.
we've, so that is the goal. I think we all want the same thing.
If I may?
Well, you have to say your name, you have to
No.
say your address, and you have to be recognized by the chair, and I'm so sorry to say that to you, Rob.
I'm sorry, I want to let her finish, and then I will take comment. Thank you.
Sorry, Rob, but sorry, Susan.
So the point of all of this is the conservation, when we approved this, the Conservation Commission voted to want to have input into the language in the CR, specifically as it relates to activities at Couch Beach, and that is exactly what we have done. We had a small task force of 2 members of the Open Space Committee, 2 members of the Conservation Commission, and Bill Finn, who's very familiar with conservation restrictions. And what we have done is come up with language. We devised this language in response to the months of discussions that we had in this commission, addressing people's concerns. And what we tried to do was come up with language that allows for the activities that people want, that have historically been done, and also to address some of the problems over there and improvements. Conservation restrictions usually don't have this much language in them, but this is more expanded because of the specific needs of Couch, and that has been agreed to by Wildlands Trust, that we will have expansive language. So everything that we put in this language is broad, and the idea is that in addition to this, we will have to come up with, and we'll talk about this, and probably your task force would want to be involved, in a user manual that will create guidelines for the activities that are then supported by the CR. So you'll see have people seen this? Did they get to see this?
I haven't,
These,
I have not seen it.
ask if it would be possible to have it up there.
I don't think I have it to put up there.
So what is
I
that?
don't know why this is just not distributed. The conservation restriction was first written by Wildlands Trust
Okay.
in response to the natural heritage endangered species mitigation requirements. What we have done is edited them to allow for more expansive language that address Couch. Typically, these kinds of things wouldn't be allowed with a CR. Some of them would, some of them would not. But we have come up with language specific to the activities in that area, and they only pertain to the 3.4 acres designated as the camping area. So these restrictions only apply to that area. So we've worked to come up with language that, if approved by this commission, we will then submit to Wildlands Trust for their comment. What I would like to do, and I'm just looking at the activities that you're talking about and improvements, and I believe they'd be covered by the language that we have already put into here. And so, that being
Commissioner
said,
Karen?
because, yes.
I have the language here that I can read into the record.
Okay, all right,
If
I
that is
can-
helpful.
Yeah, sure, or I can read it as well, if that, although seeing the, all right, I will do that. So the language that we are, again, this is broad, and it could possibly be changed, but my goal is, if we approve this, I would give your comments, the things that you're trying to do currently, and see if they're covered by existing language, and if
Well,
not, what
just
can we do to address
Just
those?
a comment real quickly, if you will allow. It's just we haven't had a chance to have that exchange, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right, so, so the people that are voting on this may want a chance to review this, but I can read it for the record if that's what you would like. This is in regards to prohibited uses in reserved rights, and it's specific in this area. So one of the things that we're saying is the grantor reserves the right to conduct a permit the following activities, provided they do not materially impair the conservation values or purposes of this conservation restriction or other significant interests. And then what we do is add to that, our change is, and are consistent with all bylaws, regulations, and policies of the grantor as of the date that this is approved. We are the grantor. So in other words, our regulations and bylaws have to be consistent with activities.
One thing there, just for the exchange to be open and to help you with that, we don't have the land yet, it's still with DPW. Like that, they could take it away, so this is an issue.
I don't
with
think
it.
they can with DPW.
Well,
with-
the good news is it's been voted at that town meeting that it has to be converted over. It was supposed to be through an Article 97. If you're strict, I guess, constitutionalist, you would say that Article 97 needs to get into the hands of the commission so that we can then get the conservation restriction on it. I just want to make that
Sure.
point. I just want to make that point that it was part
We
of the
had this
Entirely
discussion
sure
with
that this
Attorney
is true.
Galvin back last
Yeah, I
fall, that
don't
we
think
could
that's
go ahead
correct.
and take the land on Article 97 and then put the CR on.
That's
I-
right,
I
Bert's got it right.
clearly remember that.
Yeah,
so-
it's just a step-by-step, and Jesse Ledick said they tend to see, when they do two, Article 97 layered by the conservation restriction. That's how you make that happen. That's typically what they see.
And
I'm not
my
an
understanding
expert.
is that there's no mechanism to overturn the CR vote that was done at
I don't
town
think
meeting.
anybody's trying to do that. I
Okay,
think
all
this
right.
is, I think this, Susan, and everybody, I think that a CR is probably appropriate in this property at this point in time. It is gonna become the mechanism. It's just the exchange that you've gotta have and so on, that's all.
The point too is that we're all on the same page here. This conservation restriction, this particular language is meant to cover activities that people want to do on their property, but also be a catalyst for change to provide, to require improvements. So the things that you want to do, this would be required in the CR. We're trying to preserve the conservation value of the property, and with that, it's part of the management of the property, and it's all, everybody trying to work together on this. So, I have to drink water if I'm going to read this whole thing, sorry.
Rob,
I'm sorry. You're going to say something funny?
It's a change for you, Rob.
Rob wants to, Rob will take it in a second.
Okay. Proposed changes to existing language, and I know this is difficult for people who haven't seen the language. The change, all right. So the changes to the text here are an expansion of the list of allowed activities provided by Wildlands Trust. I don't think, just overall, it provides more specificity with regards to tent platforms, vehicular access, maintenance needs, and campfires. Additionally, we believe the creation of a user guideline manual will be essential to support the public understanding and adherence to the provisions of the conservation restriction. This process, and I don't need to get into that, although I suppose I will. This process of coming up with a user manual, which is, I think, kind of where you're headed, can begin after the proposed revisions are deemed acceptable by the Conservation Commission and Wildlands Trust. And I'll go on. So now I'll just read the language that we have inserted into the CR. First, I'll start with existing language. The grantor and its invitees are permitted to conduct non-commercial, underlined passive recreational uses of this premises, such as nature study, birding, wildlife observation, and walking on existing trails. Overnight camping is allowed only within the 3.452 acres designated as the existing camping area, as shown on the description of the premises in Exhibit A. We now add, hereinafter referred to as the ECA, existing camping area, allowed uses within the ECA include overnight camping utilizing tents erected on constructed tent platforms, the density and design of which shall conform to the grantor's user guidelines for couch camping area, developed in conjunction with the grantee specifically for passive uses within this premises. In addition to tent camping structures and activities, the user guideline will address the location, size, and design of the allowed portable restroom facilities, fireplaces, the use of motorized vehicles to access the camping area, parking restrictions, solid waste management, signage, and other relevant uses allowed within the existing camping area. In any case, no allowed uses of the existing camping area shall result in significant alteration of the topography, landscape, or environmental qualities of the premises, and must be consistent with all bylaws, regulations, policies, and procedures of the grantor as of, and we'll provide the date. I know you're not getting a chance to read it, but does that make sense to anybody, or any questions about that? So you can see we talked about restroom facilities. And so then, so this is just, I know that's what you're worried about. Go ahead.
So that was great, but we have a task force here. I'd set it up to go, the porta potties, kind of interact this article, and I thought they were like 2-3 minute conversations, and then allow the same people to maybe put their 2 cents in and so on. So we've sort of gone right to the conservation restriction. We have a task force, which, you know, they've got the police and fire and the town administrator here, and DPW, so I thought we'd get to that. I also asked Rob to come to talk about the porta potty and some scout individuals, and we got a lot of scout individuals, which was unanticipated because they were worried about no camping whatsoever, and that wasn't the message. They were
No.
just more to talk about, can we see this thing? Can we look at it? Can we have comments? And that means a broader group than even the commission, I think. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, I wanted to get the CR out there because I know there has been concern, which is erroneous, that we are not going to be
Right.
allowing the historical use of this property. That is incorrect.
Correct. So-
Nothing is going to change with respect, well, in fact, we're going to make improvements to the camping.
And that's why people are here, for the improvements.
Yes.
So,
So to that point, if I'm allowed, just tell me when I stop. I'm not a commissioner. The task force maybe can talk, maybe we can allow Rob to talk, and people from the public, because it's sort of kind of, we worked our way in backward, and maybe you'll hear some things, and maybe it'll help broaden the input, and that will help the whole community have a say in this really wonderful property that's, quite frankly, I go down there and people, it's like a sanctuary, you know? And I think the people want to protect it. No, it's a sanctuary, you know?
So now we'll go through your order. I just
Okay, all
wanted
right.
to make sure that the conservation restrictions
It was touched, okay, so.
was touched on.
So the conservation restriction, as Chair Hannafin and Commissioner Karen are saying, is really the primary tool. It's gonna be where all the conversation gets embodied in a document that will become a recorded document, et cetera. So the people that wanna say something should say it, so that those comments get into that document through these people here at the commission. And, you know, I'm seeing Rob wanting to go. If you wanna talk about anything in the porta potty, you have to just announce your name to the chair.
It has to come through me.
It has to go through the chair. What's your name and what is your address for the record, please?
Rob Nerger, 113 Mayberry Road.
Okay.
I was very pleased. I like the idea that it's a very vague document, not really kind of pushing us into a corner with anything, which is great, because you guys are, if we want to expand this and do any kind of structure or anything beyond that, we'll be back here, and you'll be the ones that will be approving it anyway. So that would be the concern, that the CR from Heritage was not going to allow us that flexibility. It sounds like you have that.
that's their main concern. One of the, you know, I've been having, you know, this has been going on for almost a year now, working through this. And one of the main concerns that the land protection professional at Weldon's Trust has is the lack of restroom facilities. You know, he sees camping areas all over the country, and that can degrade a site quicker than anything else. So he shares these concerns and doesn't want to set us up to fail with the CR, creating violations when you're trying to do things to protect the site. So that's what this is designed for, and if we have to tweak anything, we'll do that. The goal is we have to get this to the state as quick as possible, because it's a long process, so.
Do we have the ability to improve the road for access for police department? That's the biggest problem. It seems the scouts are perpetually going down there and cleaning up this site because they can't get down there easily to patrol the area. Is there a means to make that road more
Yeah.
accessible for them, whether it's a electric gate
imagine
that they
that.
can just go in and take a loop through
Yeah.
on a patrol?
That's a great point, and I think the task force should just chime in. I guess there's no order here, but you have to go to the chair, so I want to keep asking you. Some of you want to not reveal your names for certain reasons, that's okay, I get it. Chair Hannafin, can the task force also kind of roll into that? Because that's an important element to this as well, and I'm sure Rob's not quite done. Anybody in the task force want to chime in about the road or any of the other stuff? What's your name?
Madam Chair, Michael Moresco, 201 Arlington Street. Through you to the committee, First of all, I want to say thank you to the Conservation Commission, the subcommittee, on getting that information out very quickly tonight at the onset of the meeting, that camping and the traditional types of activities in that 3.4 acre area will continue to be allowed, as Bill Grafton, the administrator, mentioned. The task force with the police, fire, DPW, myself, and Bill Grafton, we've talked about making some improvements with the road, usually washes out infrastructure for setting where the fire pit should be, so that the Conservation Commission picks the best location, and we put a professional fire pit in with materials that are safer and would prevent a forest fire. We talked about issues about the importance of having the porta toilets, and I'm glad, and I share Rob Nurger and everyone else. You can't have kids and or adults, quite honestly, without porta toilets, and they have to be secure, because people do get there and they come in through the river and they get up there, and kids think it's a great idea to topple those over, so we need to think of some ways to be able to secure those. We want to limit car access, though, down to where the actual camping takes place. I know when my son was a Cub Scout and he was in the Boy Scouts, and my daughter was in scouting, venture scouting, was always limited to about 3 cars there, so we'll have to think about some limitations down there, some security controls at the gate. People get in, some added signage up there, and then really the camping, and then maybe some steers. I don't want to get too, we've talked about a lot of different issues, I just want to get them out there. One of the biggest concerns, and I think one of the areas where there's some damage and erosion to the environment, people that come in on boats that climb up the cliff, or people that are camping and want to go down there, they have some issues with the slope. We need to have some kind of steers in there. And then my final point, Madam Chair, is I heard the mention of tent platforms. The only thing that scares me about that's limitation, and I know that we'll have more discussion on this, but tent platforms are great. They use them at Boy Scout camp, but I guess what the number is. I've gotten a number of calls, and I'm sure that the commission has also, from scouts, wanting to make sure that the numbers are reasonable numbers with the amount of Cub Scouts that go there, Boy Scouts, Venture Scouts, and now girls are in the BSA troop. So those are just my general remarks. I'm very excited to hear that the traditional activities will still be allowed, and I'm sure that we can all work together, collectively, whatever I can do to help out to do that. And I just want to thank, I see Chief Simpson here. I want to thank him and Bill and the DPW and the police for everyone working together. So thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you, Mr. Maresco.
Who wants to go? Flip a coin, fire versus police. Bill, you want to go? What's your name for the record?
Bill Sullivan from the Police Department.
Thank you, sir.
So as far as public safety concerns, Mike Maresco touched on a few of them, but the gate was obviously mentioned. I mean, if we could maybe have the roadway improved slightly, obviously within the bounds of what would be appropriate by what your standards are. Obviously, get better access down there.
Yeah.
If we have to get down there, and then maybe even proactively, beyond just getting called down there for an emergency, would be fantastic for access. The other item that is, public safety-wise could be addressed is the egress onto the beach from the river. If we could do some sort of like natural staircase or natural terrace stone, or way that people could come up and down without eroding the bank or putting themselves in a dangerous situation. It is kind of a dangerous situation.
It is, yeah.
That would be nice. I'm sure there's plenty of different ways we could do that.
Great, thank you, Lieutenant Sullivan. Chief, you want to give us 2 cents? Appreciate you guys participating in the task force annual meetings and supporting. You guys have keys. I know that the North and South River Watershed Association had some overheating, and they used Couch as the out location. So fire could have been down there for a rescue, or you guys could have been down there, Lieutenant Sullivan.
Yeah, I think Lieutenant Sullivan summed it up perfectly on the public safety, in respects to public safety. Access is the key, and security. And for us, getting our equipment down there if we needed to get it down there right now, some improvements to the road would be fantastic. And possibly some ways of mitigating the fire threat. We discussed that, potential sand bunker. I know it sounds scary, but all it is basically a pile of sand. Talking to DPW about that. So there could be some fire suppression, policy in place. And as far as the fire pits go, give people an opportunity to have a fire, but not wherever they feel like having a fire. So we could do something safe, plan, and put in some, like Mr. Moresco said, some professionally built fire pits for the public.
Outstanding, thanks a lot. Is anybody here from DPW today? Okay, well, Tom Reynolds is joining us and he supported us. Matt Eby goes down on a weekly basis. They do a pickup of the garbage, which might not sound too much, but you know what? You need sanitation. It's part of human life, and this is an important thing. They're also eyes on, so they always give us feedback. So I'm getting feedback from the fire, from the police, and from the campers too. They're telling us. So we've changed everything, and what we're trying to do is progressively establish an orderly wilderness, and I think that should be the goal of the conservation restriction. These improvements, should be community improvements. So with that said, maybe we could talk about the porta potty a little bit more focused and get that resolved. I've got the yes from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. You asked me to get that.
Right.
It's smaller than the 64 square feet, so we don't need a building permit. And it's out of range of the riverfront and the 100-foot buffer. And you already gave permission to go ahead and do this. It's just a matter of coming back and blessing it. Go ahead, Susan. Yeah.
One of the things I did want to address, everything that everyone has said tonight, I think is covered by the language currently in the CR. In terms of vehicular access, safe access, most CRs, that should not be a problem. The things that conservation restrictions are concerned about is the materials that are used. You couldn't pave it. You wouldn't want to be using, recycled asphalt. It's the materials, the methods, how big it is. But they're as concerned about safety as everyone else is.
Yeah, clean materials.
So the gate, safety, roadway access, I think we're going to be fine on all of that. Egress to the beach, I can't imagine that being an issue as well, because that protects the environment, which is the goal of this whole thing. The fire threat has also been a concern, mitigating for that. The sand, I mean, you folks will have the solutions. We'll have the general language in here that will allow for the solutions. You see what I'm saying? So I think that, and then Mr. Moresco mentioned the number of platforms, that they're sufficient to support the usage, and those are things that you will come up with, the users, whoever, the user guideline team that will put that together. So what our goal is to make sure our language will cover those things. And so then we'll discuss this with Wildlands Trust, and if there's any question, you call them, and I think we're all on the same page on this. I don't anticipate problems. The only other thing is the final step is the state will review this, but because this particular piece of the CR that's been carved out is rather unusual, Scott at Wildlands Trust felt like this is probably going to not be an issue. So we feel fairly confident that this is going to be okay.
Whoever's got a phone, would you silence it, please?
So I hope that addresses your concerns and questions.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You go right ahead.
If, I just want to plant a seed on the Scouts are always looking for Eagle projects in the stairs down over the bank. Obviously, that is working right within the river. So I don't know what you guys are going to require for that.
That would be conservation, actually.
Okay,
That's
just
a conservation.
planting the seed. That's
Yeah.
if that's something that we're trying to get safe river access. Getting out in front of that side of it, I think is very important, because they can do it quickly if, we have kids coming of age all the time.
Yep.
They're always looking for a project, and obviously I can work as far as the structural side of it, but getting them permission and how you'd want that done, I think is something that you're gonna have to get an idea of.
I think what
entail.
Commissioner Karen's saying is that conservation, you need the conservation permission to work in the area, and then the permit, like we did with the porta potty. We'll get that done. We'll contact the Natural Heritage, and then there's going to be a grantor eventually when this thing gets done, grantee. And that party, be it Wildlands Trust or Mass Audubon or, who's the other one, Trustees of Reservations, depends on who they are, you'll deal with them, okay? And they also, so you have a big group, so you won't see that. But you like we work together normally, it'll get permitted, and then it'll be a
But
project.
it's very time
Oh,
sensitive
yeah.
for the scouts. That's the thing that you guys we need to almost permit this as a package for another scout coming down the road, because it's not really feasible for
I got it.
some 16-year-old kid to wait around for a year and a half for us to get a design done.
So
and a permit.
potentially we could do an NOI to Rob's point and cover a bunch
Like
of
I
stuff.
say, I could very easily be a permitting agent, and we'll just have, you kind of package this up for a kid, or a group, you know, it depends on the scale of the project, whether it's a single scout or multiples, they do it in stages, we've done that a couple times. So let's just kind of
Plan
that,
ahead, yeah.
get that, if it sounds like from a safety standpoint, that's one of the big items.
Yeah.
We can get it done without the town having to pay for it, without, you know, we'll raise the money or whatever it takes to get it
It
done.
goes back to the partnership of the community. The scouts are all in. Rob's been with his kids doing this. He's taught me things. I learned from Ned Banks, who's in the field here. John Zimmer is up on this board as well and everything. So there's a lot of community that wants to help out. And I talked about Ned on another property. Maybe we do an NOI, cover a bunch of work so that we can roll it out once it's done and do an ongoing condition. So we can cover all that stuff. And then that paves the way. Now your scouts can come through and everything. It's like anybody else here, Ned or John or anybody want to talk, you know?
Anyone else?
What's your name for the record?
Yeah, Pat McGonigal, 79
Pat, how
Columbia
you
Road.
doing?
So, I'm the porta potty guy. So I just want
What a relief.
I think, I just want to throw out the whole reason of a structure was because I had stopped providing toilets for groups out there.
Don't
Right,
say it
because
so.
they were
And Monday
vandalizing.
morning, I was going out there,
Yep.
and it was tipped over, and if anyone doesn't think that's a big deal, come on over Monday morning. You can go
Get
to
the truck up
Rockwood
on-
Fields with me, you can go to all the places they blow over. So that was why, Bill had a group that wanted to go out there, and I had said, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, I only go out there for Pac 97, Troop 101, because those were my kids' scouting groups, and that was it. So he asked me to do it, and it snowballed, and now I'm here. So that's why the importance of some sort of a structure so that the unit can be secured, so that way, you know, if we have a group going out there every weekend, I don't have to go pick it up Monday, bring it back Friday, pick it up Monday, bring it back Friday. I can just go out, service it, secure it, and then it's good to go for the following weekend.
Right.
So that's why, if anyone wasn't sure why a structure was being asked for, that is the reason.
Yeah, no, we're fully aware of the
Okay.
reason for trying to protect
Yep.
the porta potties. And at a previous meeting, we already agreed to allow a structure
And
to contain.
And the access way helps me as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
right, if we improve that.
We were trying to do something fancy for you. I had Liz looking at this, and we were looking at the one with the half moon and the carved in the front, and we were going for the gold for you. So, what's your name for the record, sir? Name for the record, sir? Name for the record.
Dave Will, 153 Prospect Street. Just a question, maybe a comment. What is the purpose of the tent platforms or the camp platforms?
Give a little more structure and some purpose. Now, the town administrator had brought up a good point. Does that limit? I'm not sure that's the case, but the concept of structure, not over-structure, means we're going to get a more disciplined presence down there. People are going to respect it. They're going to say, this is my space, my domain. I want to take care of this sanctuary. We're going to create better stewards. That was the idea. If everybody's sleeping on the floor, driving over the floor, throwing the beer bottles on the floor, doing whatever they're doing on the floor, that's going to be a mess. So some small amount of structure seemed to be appropriate. I brought that up. Others had liked it. Some didn't. It's still a topic for discussion. So the CR then adopted the concept of platforms. So that's it. They could not happen. They could be dropped out.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
The tent platforms were actually, I know that you've had ideas about it, but they were also recommended by the Wildlands Trust because it protects the resource areas better. It doesn't degrade the soil as much. So it's it's for their purposes, it's environmentally a better solution to having tents on the ground. For all the reasons you said, it can control how many tents you have there. It's a way of doing that, but it's also considered better environmentally for the site.
But in this property, I mean, just to kind of play off of it, because it's nothing's done, I don't vote, just so you know, that body votes right there, I don't vote. We don't want to limit the number of people, but we don't want 85,000 people in there. We don't want a concert in there. We don't want anything like that. This is a sanctuary place. Typically, when the scouts go down, I went down, I was checking on things, and they were all over the place. They were orderly. They weren't up. They were ready to wake up at the right time. I saw probably 15 tents. Fine, orderly, good. You know, but the body that's going to vote on this, they get to say how many are in there and are any or not. Right now, what we do and the protocol is we allow one permit per weekend, or if they go down during the week, whatever the days are. So that way we only have one. Sometimes people sneak in, and we hear about that. We really don't want to shut it down 100%. What we want is an orderly wilderness. We don't want people being disrespectful. If you and your wife go up and say, hey, look, I got kids here, we'd like you to chill out, we expect them to chill out. We've had a couple people that didn't. That's a problem. So,
And what's the acreage of the camping area again?
it's like
3.452, I think.
So, and you said you saw a dozen or so tents, 15.
Well, this is what I saw.
Yeah.
I'm not putting a limit on it. What I'm saying is if we had a big event, there ought to be built into this, the user manual and the CR, some degree of flexibility. So let's just say there's an Eagle Scout and he wants to have his honor court down there, and that's a unique thing. And let's just say that's happening. The commission may or may not offer flexibility. I don't know.
So I've camped there many a time with the scouts. I love that place, and I agree with everything that stated. Sorry for repeating something that I already said.
This is
I
the
had to
community.
say, it's just awesome down there. When I camped down there with the scouts, there's, you know, I'd say the smaller end, about 10 tents, usually doubles, and I would argue I've seen probably upwards of 20-ish.
Well, I haven't seen that yet.
Because the kids are generally 2 in the tent.
Take pictures so I can see, yeah.
Plus you have the parents. Having said that, imagine 16 platforms in a 3.5 acre area that's supposed to be beautiful, right? I'm not a conservationist. I don't understand how a platform would affect the growth and the soil versus a tent affecting the growth and soil. I can't imagine a tent every 3 weeks is gonna, but I'm not here to debate that. I just wanna plant the seed for when the conversation comes up sometime down the road, that having 15 big tent platforms.
8x8 platforms is a
gonna-
lot of.
It's gonna take away from the beauty of the place, and I'm not sure enough to warrant the conservation.
Well, you know, this isn't definitive yet. This is
Yeah.
in draft
Sure.
form.
I just
So,
wanted to
but
plant
I
that
think
seed
you
for
raise a
later.
good point too. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't camp myself, so I don't, but I can understand the wilderness issue that you bring up. Just the aesthetics of it. the
So
aesthetics.
throw in a curveball, just give me MC, and if it's okay, Chair Hannafin. I see John Zimmer, he's online with his hand up for the last 20 minutes, so I thought we'd give him a chance. I see Ned over here looking at me, so.
Ned, yeah, we have a lot of hands up, but we'll go to John.
Okay, thank you. John Zimmer, 61 Meeting House Lane. Question, then a couple of hopefully quick comments. Will the draft CR language be posted on the commission's website for the public to review?
I don't think that was the plan.
Well, maybe it should be.
Is that something that could be done?
I don't know. I don't know. What do
Normally
you
you
think?
do something like that to bring in community support.
I think it might be difficult if you would like to look at it, you'd be welcome to. I don't know if it would be helpful to have it on the website. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with conservation restrictions and what they mean. But I'd be happy to share that with you, John.
Could I throw out an option? Could I throw out an option? Maybe we could put a tagline on our website about this conservation restriction and email conservation, and if they want it, then we'll get it. We won't distribute it unless they send us an email to that, and it's just probably a small group. I mean, like, I heard that, you know, we put out on our website, for example, when we did our doc regs, we put it out 3 times in the newspaper, you know this. And we posted twice on the Concom paper on page, once on the town page, and then we posted on the website. And we only had like a small handful of people participating. I mean, that should have reached the earth, you know what I mean? So I thought maybe that, we get a small amount of people if we get anybody. And then
Perhaps
John
we
would get a
could
copy.
say we have a copy in the office if you
Yeah.
would
Ah,
like to come in.
that's great.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
and review it.
That's a good
Yeah, that's a
idea.
great idea, Chair Hannafin.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
John,
and I can send you what we have as well, John. Email it to you.
Okay.
But then I think having a copy available in the office would be good, just I think these are difficult documents for people and they don't understand what the language means, that it, you know, it's meant to be broad, and a lot of people that have worked on this are familiar with it. So do you understand what I mean? I think we could end up taking a lot of time. One of the things that's concerning me is the state has been without a CR reviewer for a while, and we need to get into the queue as quickly as possible. There's been long delays in getting these finalized, so that's our goal, to do that, but I'll send this to you, and we can have a copy.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
thank
great.
you.
And then, I 100% agree with the, comments that folks have made about having a set of stairs going up that bank from the river. I mean, that's gonna be critical, but the commission may also wanna think about an additional structural type solution, because that bank is eroding pretty significantly along that whole side, and it may help to funnel people to those stairs if you did like a wooden retaining wall or something along that bank. So I just want to make sure that the CR does allow you the flexibility to look at those type of structural solutions, whether it's the bank or the access road or things like that, you leave yourself enough wiggle room in there to do those types of projects if and when they're needed.
That's the goal.
Okay, and then lastly, we've been talking a lot about the camping area, which is great and important, but the overall goal of that CR is to protect the majority of that property for eastern box turtle habitat.
That's right.
And does the CR language allow for the management of that habitat over time, as that forest succeeds, to keep it as quality box turtle habitat? I mean, one of the things that I've noticed out there is that there's a lack of suitable turtle nesting areas out there. There's the kind of the debris and kind of the DPW pit there that provides some, but other than that, I think that the turtles are probably moving into the cemetery to those open areas to lay their eggs and things, which can run into issues because people like to collect turtles and things like that. So just keep in the back of your mind when you talk to the Wildlands Trust that you need to maintain the flexibility to manage that woodland to continue to provide high quality turtle habitat, because if you don't over time, it may not be as good, and you may not have the benefit for the species that it's really designed to have.
That's a
I can-
brilliant pickup. I
Right,
agree.
yes, I can tell you clearly it does allow that. It is, the maintenance and clearing, managing invasive species, all of that is in there.
But John, there's a
I can share that
user
with you as
manual
well.
that Commissioner Karen is talking about. So maybe we could put something in there specific in there on how it gets done, like an A to Z on how it's actually done. The CR is gonna be like 18 pages or less. There's no way it can tend to a 50-page, document that tells you everything you need to do for turtles and, snapshots and cut sheets, et cetera,
And when we get to the point that there is a user manual, that
Exactly.
can be made public.
That's where the detail
And
is.
that might be an easier way for
Yes.
people to understand.
That's the goal, there's
Yeah.
the guidelines, and then it's not how you do it, but what's allowed. And I think that's pretty clearly covered. I've read it several times. So, but you'll have an opportunity to see that as well.
So,
Yeah, I think that the habitat management should probably be something that's more on the conservation side versus in a user manual. I mean, the user manual should probably be,
Right.
if it's a public document, it should be geared more towards the use of the
Use of the
yeah, but
property.
John, like everything else that gets lost, like these days, we try to recommend that things are ongoing conditions, and we reference site plans so that they are in their COCs, et cetera. I think you know that logic. So these things need to be overlapped and repeated exactly the same verbatim in multiple documents so that people do the job. You know what I mean? They gotta do the job. Wow, great comments, Ned.
Just make one final comment to reassure you, John. This particular CR is a natural heritage endangered species CR, and it's species-centric is the word they use. So it really focuses on all of your concerns. That's the goal. So I think if you got a chance to read it, I think you would, I'm gonna bring this up, I'm making all these questions, a list of these questions, and I will bring them up to Scott when I present our draft with him, our draft changes, to make sure that it all dovetails, but I'm feeling confident that it will.
So Ned's next. Ned Bangs is next, because he just can't wait to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ned Bangs, 210 Willard Circle, Marshfield. I'm speaking for myself, not for the Trails Committee, because we haven't really discussed this at our meeting, but we will in August, next week. But I can say from a personal point, and when I was Recreation Director, very familiar with the area from high school, college, recreation. We did camping, canoe, kayaking trips there, and agree with a lot of the comments, good comments. We have some ideas that we could probably do from the Trails Committee for this area as well. And so it's nice to see it's moving in the right direction. And we look forward to working with the task force where that's possible.
Thank you.
Nice, Ned. Thanks.
No, I'm looking at the gentleman behind you, Bill, then I'll get to you.
Are
Yep.
you up? Okay, right, I didn't think so.
Yep,
So
no,
Mike Baird's
go
up.
ahead.
Mike Baird is up.
Hi, Mike Beard, 32 Farragut Road. Just a couple of questions. The commission is the grantor. Who's the grantee?
So what's happening right now is the property ownership is DPW.
Yeah.
It hasn't moved, but it's going to, if they vote on the Article 97, so we get it done. Bob has said if he has the plan, he can get it done by the deadline, which is the end of August. That's what's going on. Then they become the grantor, and they become the owner, and then under the CR, they can be the grantor, giving it off to a grantee.
And the grantee is?
I don't know. Could be anybody. I hear Wildlands Trust a lot.
Wildlands Trust.
But the thing
Wildlands
is,
Trust.
there's a procurement
It's Wildlands
process
Trust.
which hasn't been gone through, so I don't really know much about that.
Okay. So is that the CPC money that was voted? Is that who would receive it?
The
Yes.
grantee would receive it. I would just simply say that because you're a lawyer and I want to be careful.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay. I would definitely reiterate what they said about the platforms, to consider that. What's the process for finalizing the CR language? I can see that.
The process at this point is the Conservation Commission is commenting on this particular section. The rest of the CRs, both the Old Mount Scargo property and this, are already in draft form. There's some minor changes, like grammatical things, dates to change, grantor, grantees, that sort of language, that need to be changed. Those are minor. Once we approve this language, this commission, it will go back to Wildlands Trust for their review. If Scott at Wildlands Trust feels that that would be acceptable to the state, then it will come back to us. It'll go to our town council. Then our Board of Selectmen and Town Council have to approve it. I believe we will vote again on that. Then it goes to the state, and then we wait.
At what point will the public have?
This is it right now. This is the process.
This is the process.
It's being developed here. And so what John asked for was a copy. And so what the commission said was, we would basically announce that there's a hard copy at the office, and you can come down and look at it, All right, it's public information, so there you
But
go.
there's only this meeting for input, and we don't have a copy.
Well, nobody knows that.
Okay.
You can get a copy in the office, and then we'll,
And I also think some of the commissioners didn't necessarily have a copy either.
well, and they will get that.
Oh,
I don't,
all right.
it's unbeknownst to me why they don't have them,
Throughout
but,
the process, it'll be.
I
yeah,
think
so
you can't
that's a little
take-
delay in our, probably
Yeah.
how we handle this evening, but the commission will have it.
To help
Yeah.
Commissioner Karen, we have multiple meetings every 2 times a month. First Wednesday, third Wednesday. and-
Okay,
Oh, no, that's.
we know when the meetings are. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Um,
All right, Bill.
No, I was just wanted to
Blade statement, the
clarify.
obvious would be a good one.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Finn?
I just wanted to comment on the tent platform issue. Commissioner Laggy, former Commissioner Laggy, had a suggestion. He worked as part of the subcommittee that we worked on that document. His suggestion, which we all agreed to, was that he was going to contact the Appalachian Trail organization, which he is very familiar with, and he was going to get specifications and density specifications and structural specifications on tent platforms from them to use as input to design and consider the density of the tent platform. So we had covered that, and I'm sure Commissioner Laggy would be willing to follow through with that.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience. He's working on a Federal Reserve up in Maine with the governor and 2 senators right now. So tapping him, if it's what the commission wants, then go ahead.
All right, if there are no more comments,
Maybe we get back to where we were. Porta
I
potties,
move,
well,
okay.
Let's go to porta potties.
Porta
That's all we
potties.
covered. All right, so
The commission has approved the construction of the porta potty shelters. It has also been approved by Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. The size is below the threshold for a building permit, and the location is beyond the 200-foot riverfront and the 100-foot buffer zone, so no conservation permit is required. Rob Nerger and Patrick McGonigal are present to discuss and answer questions, so I guess we are good with that. So, at this point, I move that we vote to approve the construction of the porta potty enclosure based on the information provided. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that's Bert.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, that's great. So Rob, we can roll before you go down and drop your daughter off there.
I'll have it delivered
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I'll be fine. I needed a vote, okay? I've been trying. And Patrick, you're gonna be a happy man soon. Very happy people out there, very relieved. The Article 97.
Article 97, I think we've pretty much touched on that,
So
and
here's what you got, just so it's crystal clear, Jesse Leddick sent an email that he wanted both things done by the end of the month, and I don't think there's a plan to actually do sorry about that, this is to do the Old Mount Skirgo, so we have to get with him, but if you could give me something here to work with, and I would suggest the vote 1A so we can move forward and get couch done, so that you can get your CR done. And then I would go with 2B for the Old Mount Skirgo, because we need the plan. That's what I'd recommend. Because there's, like, people are like, what are we doing? Are we moving sideways? We need this tool because the town wanted it. And that prepares the way for the CR, which is the language in the user manual.
all right. I move that we vote to approve the preparation of Article 97 deed conveyance for Couch Beach using the 2013 site
That's
plan.
this SCM plan. It's a two-parter, and it calls out 4 conservation restrictions. That's what it is. And that was presented as part of the article. I didn't want to bombard you, because I've been told to thin it out a little. I'm trying my best.
All right, may I have a second?
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
What are we specifically doing in this?
So in this particular one, you're following up on the town meeting in April 2021, where the town said you'll transfer the land of Couch Beach, which is the 68 acres, under the 2013 plan prepared by SCM. Now, I don't see Rod's out in the hallway. If I have to pull him in, he'll talk about it. But that plan's prepared and ready to go. It was presented. It's the referenced plan. So it covers the 68 acres that will come to the town, or the Conservation Commission, from DPW. That will achieve the acreage that's required to set aside for the Couch Cemetery project, the Boys and Girls Club, and also the ball fields, once you close out additionally the Old Mount Skirgo. So this is a complicated animal. You gotta do both in order to get all 3. So I'm asking for an approval vote to get Bob Galvin to finish up the Article 97, so we can send that off to Jesse Leddick, and that one's solved. And then I'm gonna buy another 60 days on the Old Mount Skirgo to get the plan together, and I'll work with Bob Galvin to complete that.
So if I understand correctly, this is an approval to go ahead with the process, but not approving Ts and Cs.
Correct, the Ts and Cs will come under the conservation restriction, correct. And the preparation, if you want, will come back on the 17th, or, I'll tell Jesse we have it, it'll be the 1st September, so you see it. I don't want you to be blind.
Yeah, I
would not do
believe
that.
we already voted this, so I think we should just go ahead and vote.
But I would like you, I would
I
like
agree.
you to
We
see
did
the.
this 2 years ago, if I remember correctly.
Correctly,
We
you're
did,
getting
we did.
close to it, yeah, you're getting on close to it. So if you get that, then he'll prepare it, and I'll bring it to the commission for a finalization. I don't know who signs it, I think you guys sign it and select board, I'll find out. Usually that's the way it works, you know these things,
All right, so the motion is on the table. May I have a second?
Second.
Ouchie, Joe.
All in favor? Aye.
Any nays? Okay, thank you, that one's done. And then with the last one, Craig, would be 2B, to get the plan going for Old Mount Skirgo, because you need that 25 acres also to cheese.
All right, so I move that we vote to table the preparation of the Article 97 deed conveyance for Old Mount Scourgo and to allow town council to coordinate the referenced plan. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, who's the second on that one, please?
Joe?
Okay. John Cusick has texted me and said, would you please speak up? He did tell us, both Mike Maresco and I are aware that he has got a bit of a hearing issue. So please do a little extra speaking up, especially when we have the RDA's coming up. So that is that.
All right, and
Okay, you got one more item here?
yes, I move that we vote to approve the amendment and finalization of the conservation, are we doing?
I would go with
no.
one, I would go with 1B
Yeah,
because
okay.
that does what you want. It gets you moving. You've vetted
Right.
out everything. The public's more happy with stuff. You've got them backing you, and they're going to want to look at it and give you more
So I move that we vote to table the
3B.
amendment and
feedback. Should be on
finalization
page 5.
of the conservation restriction for Couch Beach until the conservation restriction has been shared with the full commission, conservation staff, and other interested parties as appropriate. May I have a second?
That was who? Ken Dodge?
That was Ken.
Okay.
All in
right.
favor?
Aye.
Very good. That's a good process. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we are on to Mill Creek. Modera 2 is, thank you.
Lieutenant Sullivan, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Is,
I don't think we have Greg here. I did ask, but he's on. There's somebody on the phone. Asked to unmute. Let's see. Who are they? How do we do that?
Excuse me, are you looking for Craig Morse?
Greg Guillemot.
oh, no, Greg Guimond, yeah.
I don't think he's here. So
Okay.
I did tell him that you and I'd handle it. He looked at me like, we already met, Bill. So we've got this, Greg.
So, Mill Creek is, Bill and Greg Guimond and I met this week to discuss the Modera 240B, which is going to be adjacent to prime water production property and additionally a lot of conservation land. So we are proposing that we have some kind of a fencing structure
Yeah, I got it for you.
because it's going to be a very attractive for people, once this is constructed, to go in there. We want to have a fence, but we need to address fire gates. Okay, there's the plan.
Just tell me where you want to be. And this is Greg's plan here, and the other one is the Modera plan, which you and I discussed with Greg, and then his approach. Take it away. I'll
Right,
drive
so,
you.
well, we're in a water production area, but we also have a public safety fire issue. The fire department would like a brush road to go through, to enter this property right up there where Bill's cursor is.
It's a very narrow lot, about 30 feet wide, 100 feet long, and Craig is trying to tell you that that's the only way in, okay?
And there is a rather steep grade that is a bit of an issue, but this seems to be the only way in. So what we'd like to see is some kind of a breakaway fire gate to allow them access there, but to have a fence that comes down that perimeter.
And it hooks here. You see this green? I'll just take it for a second, Craig. We're a team here. So this is the little lot that they're talking about, and if it gets encroached by grade changes or whatever here, it messes it up, the access. This is a massive acreage here. Here is your new 25 acre lot here, and it goes out. There's hundreds of acres in here. There's an owner's unknown lot here. And so what Craig and I talked about with Greg was, in a perfect world, we get a fence here, but it leaves all this too. And you got to understand that going down towards the bottom of the cursor down here is Duxbury, and they have a similar situation. So I have talked to Brian Murphy with Chair Hannafin regarding this section here. So the language we want to send back, hopefully from the commission, is we want a fence along the eastern side as per Greg's comments, and not try to be too tricky with what these things are and say, and the southerly edge. So we get that gigantic L there. Now, they may want to do that because they may think they can buy this land. This land's really steep. It would be massive fill, and it would destroy a water production environment badly. We gotta fight for this. You cannot pay for this water down the road. At times of need, the most important thing you get is air and water. and this is water. You got your own, it's homegrown here in Marshfield. Don't let a small fence get in the way. So I would vote to go for the whole fence here. And that's that one. Chair Hanafin, did we have something about grades over here? Didn't we have something here? They were going to put.
Well, there's a trail there now,
There's a
and
ton of
that-
grading here, see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ton of grading because of the parking needs. So sorry. Wait, it's a real better finger to pull it. I got it. So these particular things are flats according to Greg, and this is out of our realm. But what it isn't out of our realm is if you go up here, he's changed it to a more livable thing for families. These are townhouses, and you get a ton of green space up in here. You lose the amount of parking, and you go from 300 down to 186. That would take pressure off the water production, and we can talk about that. Although this is not conservation jurisdictional boundaries, the commission can weigh in, and you have value. So we want to protect the water production aspects of these acreages that are protected inside the Modera. The Modera is going to go forward. It's just how much Modera is going forward. That's what it is.
So, yeah, we would like to present our views to the ZBA. And ideally, from our perspective and the planning perspective, they are currently aiming for 300 units, which obviously necessitates much greater parking. If they could get that down to 186 units, there is much less impervious parking surface, and it gives us better wiggle room for fencing, for fire department access. So this is just, we would like to take a vote to approve submittal by the Conservation Commission of a letter to the ZBA so that when this comes in front of them again, they will have our perspective.
Two more things just to mention. They want to put a water production well, which will service this area pretty well because it'll be self-contained water. But there's also a ton of storm water. So this thing, what it does is it acts like downspouts and it daylights the water back into the ground. There's also storm water going into the street, which is hard to show. It's over here basically. And they're talking about sending it all the way down the road here, which would be a great loss because all that water is less from it's not going to be percolating in and work its way through the discharge into the subsurface. We want this stuff in the subsurface. Nature will act as a percolator. It'll clean it up. It'll get down. By the time it makes it down to the Mount Skirgle well fields, you'll have good, clean water.
So, these are what we intend to put in the letter. We want to preserve water production and conservation properties of the area by limiting encroachment with a fence along the eastern and southern portion of the Madera 2 site. 2, we want to preserve water production by retaining as much stormwater runoff as possible within the recharge area affecting the town-owned forest land. 3, we want to approve a fire road to be coordinated with the Marshfield Fire Department, the Marshfield Police Department, the Conservation Commission, Recreation Trails, and Open Space Committee. 4, we want to reduce Modera on-site impacts such as parking and grade changes that encroach on the access way. And we want to see fire gates provided to help control access by vehicles into the town-owned properties. So I move that we vote to approve the submittal of a letter regarding those points to the ZBA. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. That's been an effort, and they've been asking for that. And this is another great victory for all the departments. ZBA wants our comments. Greg Guimon's been leading this. He called us in, and I also heard from Mike Maresco. So we're really bundling up the effort here.
Okay. B6 is.
Bill, excuse me,
Who is this, please?
can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Lynn Fiddler. I just wanted to make sure I was clear that it's me that's dialed in. And I appreciate everything you folks are doing in conjunction with the other departments and committees. I also want to make sure you're clear with the Mill Creek is the title, I think, for this comprehensive permit. As far as I can recall, you might want to just check on that. I don't know if it's Madera Shoes, but I understood they were being referred to as Mill Creek. So.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work.
Yes, I have Mill Creek, parentheses, Modera 2. So, yes, let the record
Excellent.
show it is Mill Creek.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Excellent.
Selectwoman. Thank you so much.
everybody.
Thanks a
Have a
million.
great evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You
Appreciate
too.
Okay, that was Selectwoman Fiedler from the Select Board. We have Also select board, number two.
Okay, item B6, Lot 11 Adelaide Way.
I could do a quick rundown on that.
We don't need to because we're gonna table it.
Gotcha.
All right, scheduled continuations.
We need to have a vote to table it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I move that we vote to table item B6, Adelaide Way retaining wall.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's second?
I did.
Bert.
Okay.
All right, 76 Carolyn Circle, dock system SE 422950. I move that we vote to continue to September 7th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
274 Foster Avenue, SE 422958. I move that we vote to continue to August 17th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
1184 Ferry Street, SE 422987. I move that we vote to continue to September 7th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
1203 Ferry Street, SE 422988. I move that we vote to continue to September
Or
7th,
Susan.
2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got Dave Good here. David Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
2205 Main Street, SE 422977. I move that we vote to continue to August 17th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna give that to Joe. He's quick on the wrist there.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Powell, 17 Oregon Road, SE 422994. I move that we vote to continue to the August 17th meeting per the applicant's request. May I have a second?
Aye.
That's John.
All in favor?
Can't stop John.
Aye.
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 And 16 Wilson Road, SE 422996. I move that we vote to continue to August 17th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
All in-
that is going to go to Joe.
All in favor? Aye.
You're close, Dave. Very close.
And
This one just came up because they had some new plans, and I got them today, and he's a gentleman, a scholar, and he did have no issues with it, so.
all right, so 249 Bay Avenue, SE 422990.
New, it needs a legal ad read.
Oh, legal ad,
So
thank
sorry,
you.
So sorry.
Okay, nope.
Order while I get some water and this bite of my sandwich. Okay. I'm gonna set this up for you.
Okay. This is a new hearing in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by Robert Gray, Cut River Investments, for maintenance, dredging, construction within the riverfront, land under ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage at 249 Bay Avenue. I move that we vote to continue this to the August 17th, 2022 public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, yep. So speak loud. John said he had some concerns with he talked to me personally when he was in. So just speak loud enough so we can also pick it up. Okay?
Well, okay.
Right on.
We are now on to public meetings and hearings. 11 Porter Street. In compliance with the regulations of the town of, in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Helen and William Ryan. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Karen.
So the administrative requirements are okay. We have a DEP number. And again, this is a request for determination of applicability for the construction of an 18-foot by 27-foot first floor deck, a 13 by 4-foot walkway to a laundry shed, and a second story 10 feet by 8-foot deck, which is replacing an existing 12 by 12, which is on top of the first floor deck. This construction project in RDA is in response to a building code violation, and the application is responding to the orders to rebuild these apparently dangerous decks. So the resource areas are a buffer zone to coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage, VE 13. So it is clear that the applicant will need a floodplain permit and a building permit. I'm wondering, is there anyone here to present this project? 11 Porter Street?
I'm Bill Ryan.
Oh, okay.
With the owners of Porter Street.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
I can summarize basically what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Sorry, so mundane compared to everything else.
Oh, no, we're happy with that.
Okay.
It's okay to be mundane.
That's all we're trying to do is just, it's a rural cottage built in 1950. We're trying to extend the outdoor living area. They're putting a road deck about 18 inches off the ground.
Right.
The existing deck is in bad shape. That's what we had the violation with.
And so you've been in touch, obviously, with the building commissioner, and
Yes,
you'll,
we'll
the building permit, floodplain permit, and all that. Okay, terrific.
Yeah, we get the sort of engineered plans and everything, and whatever we need to make everybody happy.
Okay, great, thank you. Did you have any comments on this, Michael? Or?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward.
Yep.
The second story deck will be replaced with a slightly smaller deck.
Right.
The work seems necessary and
Yep.
good. Yeah.
Absolutely, and all the work is in previously disturbed areas and outside of the 50-foot buffer zone.
Correct.
As well. Do we have any comments from commissioners, or questions? No? Is there anybody on Zoom or in the room that would like to comment on this project? Questions? Okay. Well, seeing none, I will make a motion to close this hearing with a positive determination 5 for the bylaw and a negative 2 with special conditions. Would you like to read those?
Yes.
Okay.
The special conditions are ensure best management practices and building codes are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and see the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Thank you, Michael. May I have a second?
Second.
All in
Okay,
favor?
good.
Aye.
Good job.
Okay.
All right, next one.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you. Okay. 51 North River Drive. In compliance with the code of with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by John Cusick of 12 Waterman Avenue to determine whether the area depicted on the plans or maps referenced below is an area subject to jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act, and whether the work, construction of a platform extension and roof structure, invasive species management, and winter storage afloat depicted on the plan subject to the Wetlands Protection Act at 51 North River Drive in Marshfield. Can you hear me?
John? Good. We're gonna do that periodically with you, because you asked that we make sure you hear us periodically.
So, who is here to present this?
I'll present it.
Mr. Cusick, you are presenting. Okay.
John, what's your address for the record?
12.
I live in Marshfield. You got the form in front of you. You know where I live.
He's at 12 Waterman Avenue.
Well, Waterman Ave. You can see it.
Thank you there, Mr. Cusick. Very grateful to you.
So, I would like to start by asking you, what is the purpose of this filing?
Well, I want to ask the commission to make a determination as to the applicability to the Wetlands Protection Act. I want to know if the area described in the application and plans is subject to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. And if the activities described in the application and plans are subject to regulation under the Wetlands Protection Act. That's why I have it. I marked two spots under determination. When the area depicted on plans and or maps referenced below is to an area subject to jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act. And the work depicted on plans referenced below is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. So this is for the the construction of a 12 by 14 platform, existing timber walkway and removal of the trees for the installation of the roof structure, installation of an independently supported roof structure over the platform extension, invasive species management of Phragmites by placing a large plastic tarp over the vegetation for a 40-year period, seasonal winter storage and floats and ramps on the salt marsh and upland marsh each winter and since the dock was installed.
I believe all of these items have been adjudicated in front of this commission, and I have nothing new here that we haven't already seen.
John, just to be clear, John, the chair's speaking. She's gonna try to give it a little bit of a rest so we don't interfere with your composition, okay? With all due respect. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
We have nothing new here. All of this has been previously resolved.
In what way?
This has been in front of the commission. This is probably the most permitted dock structure in the town of Marshfield. It has been through Concom. It has been through Chapter 91. It has been to ZBA. It has a building permit. And this commission ruled that regarding the Ramada, that is a de minimis activity.
Okay, so under your policy for de minimis, the exceptions are, not for a substantial change or enlarging. For de minimis, it's just minimal. It's nothing. But this isn't nothing.
Actually, it has been deemed de minimis by this commission, and filing an RDA is for work to be done. There is no work to be done here. This project was completed by 2018. So if anything, we would need an after the fact, but we have another problem in that this is an incomplete filing because we do not have site access. An RDA requires site access for the commission.
Well, why don't you ask the owner? He's sitting right there.
The owner is not granting us access, and that is his right.
So can I ask you, has anybody ever seen the Ramada or the damage caused by the floats? Has anybody ever seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
I have been there and seen the site.
Yes, I've been there and seen this site with Joe Ring in March of 2021. We saw the Ramada. Thanks for asking.
The tarp,
Did you see
the tarp
the
is
damage?
gone. The tarp is gone, and the float is no longer stored on the marsh. And when it was above the mean high water mark, which is permitted.
Well, not at the time it wasn't.
In fact, when his orders of conditions were completed, that became permitted.
So the certificate of compliance for the orders and conditions
Extinguishes.
cured and extinguished the special conditions, John.
Yeah.
So the state doesn't recognize the de minimis activity
We're aware of that. Town council has been spoken to about that, and he agrees that rather than doing what other towns do, which is just take a verbal, this is a good tool that allows us to document and bring it to the open meetings like this. It's much better than
We
verbal.
do it for the good of our residents, rather than burden everyone with going through the whole permitting process. The de minimis is designed to make it easier for the residents of Marshfield.
As long as it's not a substantial change in overall.
Oh, that we agree with.
So let me speak here. So what you're telling me is this Conservation Commission is incapable of telling me if an area of an activity that is prescribed on the plan submitted by the owner to the ZBA in March are subject to protection and regulation under the Wetlands Protection Act. Are you telling me it's not subject to the?
No.
No, we're telling you it is subject and it is fully permitted as such.
No, it isn't. It isn't. The de minimis is just for a minimal change, just something that's really minor. This is.
That's exactly what this is, de minimis. We have 4 5-by-5-inch posts. We consider that de minimis, and that has been voted on.
That's just the posts. That's not the trees that were removed. Has anybody ever seen the trees that were removed?
There were several trees that were removed, okay? That's adequate for this as well. The posts were the issue, the trees were removed as part of the bump out, and that did nothing to do with the Ramada. The question was about the Ramada. Your question was always about the Ramada during the complaint in November 2021, in January 2021, all throughout the notice of violation through the building department. That was the focus. We had a de minimis activity that cured all of the problems. The tarp was out. The Phragmites was thriving. The float was gone. The salt marsh was not damaged. The Ramada was in. John, 1 second. John, 1 second. With all due respect, John.
The salt marsh wasn't damaged.
The salt marsh wasn't damaged. We did document it. Photo documented it, so it was not damaged by the flood.
There is no damage to the salt marsh.
So I don't know if you knew that or not, but that is for the record. Back once again, and then the Ramada was less than 1 square foot, and that's what was asked of us to look at. It was considered de minimis and minor, and the other items were cured because they were resolved. The tarp was out, the Phragmites was thriving, the float was gone, the salt marsh was thriving. You know, and then as far as it goes with the order of conditions, the special condition regarding the dock was cured because a certificate of compliance was submitted, which extinguished it. So that's really the entire thing. And town council has gone over this with both Chair Hannafin and I, and we've also talked to the Mass DEP circuit rider about the whole filing.
I don't agree with you, Mr. Grafton.
Okay, you I respectfully accept that.
So, I have a question. It relates to docks and piers. Does just curiosity, does any of the members have any dock or pier?
I don't, that is not germane to our discussion. You are filing an RDA on 51 North River Drive.
Anybody have a pier or a dock on the North River?
This is not under discussion. What's under discussion is your RDA that you have filed for 51 North River Drive.
Listen, some time ago, I won't mention the member, but the Marshfield Yacht Club had hearings before you, and the member voted twice before he realized that he was a member of the.
That is in.
That was an honest mistake. I'm just trying to find out that no one has a conflict, that's all.
John,
Pier or dock on the North River, or access.
John, not germane. I mean, anybody here would recuse themselves if they thought that they had a conflict of interest, either real or perceived, And it doesn't matter if they have a dock on the North River, the Green River, the Cot River, the South River. John, hang 1 second. It doesn't matter. If anything, it helps them to understand docks better and help the new dock owner who's coming before this commission and the other commissioners. If anything, that's the only thing. I've never seen a commissioner who has a dock ever not be anything but fair, kind, and forthright with every applicant.
Okay, so then no one has a dock or a pier on the North
No,
River?
John, that's not the answer. What Chair Hannafin is
We're
telling
not
you-
discussing who has docks and piers. We're discussing your RDA for 51 North River Drive. That's the only subject on the table.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this, Mr. Cusick.
Curiosity question.
So, Mr. Cusick, this is not the platform for that. This is not a. This is we want you to.
Bill, I'm going to open it up to comments from the commission.
Understood, Chair Hannafin. Understood.
Several points. Number one, I think the float and the tarp are non-issues at this point. I think we've kicked that around enough. We're
Can you
satisfied.
speak up a little bit, Brett?
I'm right here at the mic, John. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
I believe at this point, the tarp and the float storage are non-issues. That's been settled. As far as the Ramada, I have seen this dock many times from the water. I've never been on the site. I have not seen the Ramada. But I've talked to several commissioners that have visited there, and several years after installation, everybody says that there is no disturbance to the vegetation beneath the pier. It's exactly like everything else in the area. So we have proof that it's it's not a disturbance. So all we have are the 4 5x5 posts that went into the ground. So that's where I am on this.
Bart, I will tell you, having been onto the site and walked around and looked underneath the dock.
I can't hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
1 second, John.
Talking to the mic. There you go.
If you'd let me get to there, I will. I was personally on the site, looked underneath the docks and the piers, and...
What's your name? I don't know who this is.
It's Joe Ring,
Joe
John.
Ring. And I've looked underneath the dock, I've looked underneath the piers, and there is no impact. Well, we looked underneath where the float was stored, there was no impact, and it was only removed a while before that. I don't remember the date without going back to records.
Any other commissioner comment? Any comment from the public?
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road.
What's your address at Wilson
25
Road?
Wilson Road.
Thank you, Mr. Pasevich.
I have a question, maybe you can enlighten me a little bit. When the Conservation Commission initially improved the dock structure, were there any performance standards or construction requirements that were part of the order of conditions?
So,
And I'll be very specific. How wide was the dock originally permitted for? And was there any spacing between the treads that was required to be maintained?
I'm not looking at the orders of conditions, Chair Hannafin. I'm going to talk through you, so I'm not going to state that I have that in front of me. Typically, back then, they didn't have necessarily the detail we have right now. We currently require 1-inch spacing. These special conditions became the most obvious items. You know, don't drag the float across the marsh, which evolved into what we currently have because we're trying to find a solution. ZBA was the basis for that back to the 80s. And we called in from the 80s something from ZBA so that we would be in sync with what they were doing, because at one point they had provided some pretty tough special conditions. I don't have it in front of me, Joe, and I would say that what you said, it was a couple of things there. Was there any specific construction detail? Was there any specific regulations that were called out? Typically, you don't take the regulations and embody them in special conditions. I've looked at many Warren Harrington and Jay Wenham regulations. I've never seen them do that. So I would venture that there's no regulations embedded directly inside of the special conditions, but they are embodied in the fact that Article 97 was on the header of most of the orders of conditions back in the day, or it was the intent. So that Article 97 would have applied back then. As to the construction, I think there's usually some basics. I know special condition M said winterization off-site. That's been cured. They got a COC. It's over. There were a number of other conditions. I'm not looking at them, so you're asking me to attack some memory that I can't. We have nearly 3,000 permits at this point in time. I would venture to guess that you don't have a lot of construction sequencing in there the way we have it now.
Okay, if I may follow up. So apparently there is at least a practice of maintaining light penetration, that you don't want a solid dock, obviously. You don't want to create solid shade underneath any kind of a structure going out to a dock. That's pretty much standard practice or best practice.
That is correct.
So how can you then say that a 200 square foot platform with a 200 square foot roof structure is somehow only de minimis? Are you saying that the 4 posts in the ground constitute the de minimis action, and that the roof structure and the 200 square foot deck are not de minimis actions? Is that what you're saying? That only the posts are de minimis and that the roof and deck are not de minimis? That's
Through
my
you,
question.
Chair Hannaford, if you don't mind so much. So the posts were the impact, which would be the alteration and the fill in the subsurface. The platform is raised up. It is not over salt marsh. All these standards are set for salt marsh. The salt marsh is much further down from this platform. This is over boring vegetative wetland, which does not have the same standard. It's high enough up. We saw the grass was thriving underneath and the various plants. You have 3 layers of plants. You have herbaceous, you have woody shrubs, saplings, and trees. Some trees might have gone as part of this, but they might have gone also as part of the permitted dock. So there were other agencies involved, North River Commission, and then Mass DEP under Dave Hill, who is a legend. And we fortunately were able to work with him during the preparation of the dock regulations that were approved on April 14, 2022. So that is my answer there, that the resource area is different in this part of the property than another part of the property. And the DMF typically provides comments about different types of spacing, et cetera. I think they originally called out for 3/4. We went with 1 inch to add extra space, and most people did it. If they didn't do it, then they would have built to the current standards back in the day. Not looking at it, I'm not exactly sure, but it got a COC by the commission before. Are you gonna go back and unravel that and revoke that and start it over? I don't think the commission wants to do that, because then we'll have to be going, to your point, Commissioner Dodge, to everyone in town. All 3,000 of those permits will have to get potentially revoked, and we don't want that. We want them happy, we want them good stewards, we want them to move forward.
Well, one other thing is, I don't know about these 3,000 permits you claim, but it seems to me that obviously a permit was issued, an order of conditions was issued for the construction of a dock, and it was probably uniform. In other words, it didn't say you shall construct it this way in the salt marsh, and you should construct it this way in the BVW. So you probably had a condition which it was uniform throughout, and now you drastically altered the construction.
That is speculative. We don't have the
We
orders
don't-
in front of us.
Joe, we aren't gonna get into the construction, through the
It's
chair.
speculative on the part of the commission to say that we can't do anything now because we're gonna hurt a bunch of people. That's speculative.
Duly
And
noted.
the other thing I just
Duly
wanted to
noted.
say was that
Duly
you
noted.
mentioned that there's a permit been issued. What permit has been issued? Can somebody enlighten me? What permit?
Yeah, de minimis activity through the chair has been.
Building permit.
A building permit.
The dock has a building permit. It has permitting from ZBA. It has chapter 91.
Thank you.
And a COC on the 91.
And a certificate of completion from the Conservation Commission.
And the 91, both.
And 91.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for all that, for answering my questions.
A lot of these questions through the chair can be asked in a sit-down if you want to come in and meet with me. Anybody's welcome. I've told you that, Mr. Cusick that, I've told others that. Sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. Other people go away, they get the wisdom.
Well, the problem with that, Bill, with all due respect, Mr. Grafton, I mean, really, the public hearing is the place for these things to be aired out.
So, to some extent, yes,
I
through the
appreciate
chair.
your availability and your accommodating, because you are very accommodating many times. I give you credit. But issues like this, where we're trying to understand the rules and how things are gonna be conducted, I'm sorry to be a pain in the you-know-what.
Not at all.
But I'd rather have it out in the public like this. 'Cause it's my education and for education of the public. The only other question I have, because I've got no axe to grind here. My only issue now is what happens to this application for an RDA?
So before we go into that, Chair Hanson, through
Thank you
you,
very much.
I would like to say that I appreciate Joe's comment. All I was simply saying is some of this is applicable for a visit to the commission. Mike or I can walk them through the permitting process, and other is valuable. I'd also like to compliment Joe Pasovich for some very constructive language that he put in, that it was affected E15. He gave in good sequencing
Yes, but
language.
let's stay on track.
All right, there
Let's
we
stay
go.
on
Yeah.
track.
All right.
I believe Mr. Cusick would like to speak again.
Yeah, I thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me. At one time, that wasn't true. But let me ask you about the building permit. When was that issued? You've said that numerous times.
I have no information on the building permit. I'm not in the building department, but I know there is a building permit.
When was it issued?
I don't have that
So
information.
John, just so we're on the same page through the chair, that de minimis activity said before that you would obtain all pertinent permits, okay? That is the direction from the commission. We don't need to actually have them go and do the work or get the permit in 1 day or 10 years. They have to do it on their own. They're on their own recognizance within the time frame of the conservation permit. And the de minimis activity doesn't expire.
So there's no permit then?
We don't know that. So we think there is a permit.
You know, with all due respect, you're saying it has a building permit, and it doesn't have a building permit, because you just said that. You don't even know. So why are you saying
Building permit, we have nothing to do with building permit. If you want to know about the building permit, you can check with the building commissioner.
Why are you talking about it? You're the one who brought it up.
I said this is one of the most fully permitted docks in the town of Marshfield.
You said building permit, don't.
Well, all right, we won't talk about the building permit anymore. But he is fully permitted with conservation. Now.
Yeah, with a PowerPoint from Mr. Ring.
Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on one second. I gotta just check one time.
Can I make a comment in the meantime?
Absolutely.
I see town council here.
Yes.
Great.
I was happy to air this whole thing and get the facts out there, but I'd like to clarify if this is actually, if this RDA is legal, and it's, the fact that it's applied for by non-owner of the property.
A non-property owner can request a determination of applicability.
I can't hear you.
Can you just come up with this mic?
I can't hear him at all.
All right, John, we're working on it.
Hi, John. A non-property owner can request a determination of applicability. You don't have to be a property owner to do that. Anybody can request one.
We do have lack of site access, which I believe is required for an RDA.
I mean, if it interferes with your ability to make a decision, you can make that determination. But it's completely proper for anyone to file a request for determination of applicability as it relates to the issues that are properly a part thereof. For example, is this in a resource area? Has the resource area been properly delineated? If you can't make the finding because you don't have access to the site, then that's what you have to find. But if you can make the determination, or the positive or negative, based on the information you have, you make it.
It seems that, and I think we've talked about this with the DEP circuit rider, that there should be avenues when you have an incomplete document like this, and that's where Chair Hannafin's going. For example, it's after the fact work, and we don't have the proper after the fact filing fee. They're short $150. They didn't state that this is after the fact work. All these technicalities add up.
Well,
Stuff that add up.
I think I disagree. I think this is not an after-the-fact filing as it relates to Mr. Cusick. Mr. Cusick is making a new filing. He's asking you to determine whether the work that's shown here or that he's described required an order of conditions. And that's the question you have to answer. It's not after the fact for him. He didn't do anything wrong. He's asked for your determination as to whether positive or negative this requires the filing of a notice of intent. That's what he's asked you to do. So that's the question you should rule on.
Bob, just quickly. So
I
we
would
already
suggest
told
a
you about
positive
the fact
number
statement.
5 and a
Actually,
negative number
you have
2.
the fact in that sense.
It's not an after-the-fact filing. It's a timely filing. He's free to file it at any time he wants. You know, as far as I'm concerned, this is a project that was constructed. The Ramada was up. There was a certificate of compliance issued by the prior agent. I assume on the basis of something that a prior commission determined, that would have probably been the appropriate time to question this from a conservation perspective. I am aware that the commission some 60-plus days ago issued a de minimis determination under the bylaw that has nothing to do with the Wetlands Protection Act. There is no such process under the Act, so I think Mr. Cusick is free to make the filing that he's made and ask you to answer the question that he's posed to you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Well, your special conditions are going to be important to this outcome because what we were told, Commissioner, are we at the point where I can help you with the wrap up for the commissioners to understand sharing of it, or where do you want to be? Where do you want to be?
Give me a sec here.
Outstanding.
I assume Mr. Kilcoyne does not wish to speak?
Only that I am the owner of the property. I have spent a tremendous amount of time and energy to
You
permit,
need to speak up.
Hold on. Okay. I got that, John. Jim, I have to give you the mic.
to permit this property
Gotta
properly.
give him a mic.
I'll get him the mic.
Thanks, Bill.
Something like
I said
this.
I am the owner of the property, not Mr. Cusick. I don't propose any of these as new activities. Nor will I allow Mr. Cusick the ability to do any activities on my property
Did he leave out?
or any future ones he proposes.
Number 5, because it's in resource area.
I'm not providing access to the property because the property has already had multiple permits, multiple access.
Right?
That's what I think, but I've got
I view this as a
Ask Bill.
kind of double jeopardy thing. Mr. Cusick filed a complaint on me last fall for these exact same things. I spent a year, 9 months, addressing all these. They were all addressed through various boards and commissions, including this particular commission. He seems unhappy with due process, and so he is filing this again. I feel it's double jeopardy. I've already done this, and the boards and commissions have already answered this. So that's really all I have to say here. Thank you.
Can I make a
Yes.
So Chair Hanfield, with all due respect, could I just make one global comment? I did tell the Mass DEP circuit rider that this could probably end up happening up and down the coast now and all over the place. So it'll be a shame because now everybody will weaponize, this, and it's not the purpose of it. Now, he's actually going after, very carefully, the state comment. So I looked at it carefully, but we never got the third-party review that we were actually, the commission was requesting. And that's still an in limbo component. So town council's weighed in. The DEP circuit riders weighed in. You've heard from a lot of people, the owner of the property himself, Mr. Cusick, me, all of this. And the question is that something you should be looking at? Because, the thing can be used by others in a different way. Now, Mr. Cusick's using this properly because he filled out a lot of it the right way. But again, I have cited some things that I thought were minor, but would have kicked it back if it's in our world of Concom under the bylaw. It would have kicked out for those reasons because we want a full and complete permit. and this thing's missing things. It was missing the white slips that confirmed that it went to Mr. Kilcoyne and to the DEP. The copies that were supposed to go to you did not get prepared. Digitally, they were not prepared. All those kind of little things add up to an incomplete filing. However, town council said he's in his rights to do this. We didn't get the third party, the commission to get the third party, and what DEP told me was you have the two options. One, positive one for creating an NOI. NOI process is different and more involved. Or a negative two, which would be, yeah, it's in the resource area, and you approve it. The special conditions, because the form is so poorly written, and I have told the DEP this one-on-one, you have to actually put the special conditions on the letter in order to have it work, the cover letter that we create. So the form could use some work, and in my personal opinion, the form should also make room for, when you have an incomplete filing, to kick it back. Because you only have 21 days with a determination of applicability to be filed after the request is actually submitted, unless the applicant gives extra time.
Well,
You managed to confuse me.
I did.
No,
Hard. It is hard.
No, normally, typically an RDA would be a positive determination number 5. How is this different from
So the
that?
positive 5 is taken out because if you look at, let me show
It's
it.
in a resource, that's acknowledging that it's in a resource area,
Yeah,
right?
it's a town only. So what that does is, if you read that, that's bylaw. So 5 declares that the bylaw applies. So we don't have the bylaw in this case, it's state only. So you take the 5 out in this case. Because he's already applied under the bylaw through the de minimis activity. This particular request only requests box A and C. A is the area under the state, and C is the work under the state. So the box 5 comes out.
Okay.
That's right.
okay.
At least -2.
If there is no other commissioner or public comment, I move.
I got a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cusick.
So, you're telling me that this Conservation Commission is incapable of telling me if an area and activity that are described on plans submitted by the owner to the ZBA in March are subject to the protection and regulation under the Wetlands Protection Act. You're telling me you're incapable of telling me that?
It's clear that this is subject, the project was subject to the Wetlands Protection Act.
And it was fully permitted.
And it was fully permitted. So I move that we vote to issue a negative determination number 2 with special conditions.
Bob, can you help out? Are you there? Bob?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I read these in a record and you opine when we're ready, Chair Hannafin. Do you want me?
Go ahead.
Bob, the special conditions would be, the reference work activity, it's not after the fact, kill that, is timely, okay? The Romano work was completed prior to the Marshfield Conservation Commission's issue of a certificate of compliance unless cured the issue and the RDA is untimely. Is that still correct?
It's the commission's decision not mine.
Yeah, and so you said that it's
What
timely.
what does that mean?
Well, initially it was untimely, and so now it's timely.
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking at the standard form request for determination of applicability, and I think it would be good if you all had one in front of you, but I think the question is whether did Mr. Cusick ask whether the area depicted on the plan is an area subject to jurisdiction? So he checked box B?
A and C, area of the state and work under the state.
Okay, so really there's two questions for you to answer. One, whether the area depicted on the plan is subject to the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. Okay, you can answer that positive and negative based on the evidence that you heard tonight. Then the second question you have to answer is whether the work depicted on the plan is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. And that's your second question. You answer that positive and negative. I don't know that there's a lot of conditions. You can explain the reasons for your decision if you want. I mean, it's up to you, not me, to tell you what the answer is. If you have questions about the law or, anything that's happened, I'm happy to try to help you frame that. But again, I can't make the decision for you. You have to make it. All right?
So I got two more, Bob. It is assumed that all pertinent permits are being pursued under the previous approval by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on April 19, 2022. So to avoid repetitiveness, no direction is being provided on obtaining all pertinent permits.
So are you suggesting that the commission adopt those reasons as a basis for its decisions?
No, I'm saying that we aren't going to put down obtain all pertinent permits again, because it's already been done under the de minimis activity.
I really think the two simple questions are whether the area depicted on the plan is subject to jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. Yes or no. And then yes or no, whether the work depicted on the plan is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. Yes or no. The rationale can be what you decide to add as reasons, but those are the only two questions you have to answer.
Are we still open for discussion?
Yep.
So you have two commissioners that are new to this board.
Right.
And are semi, familiar with what's going on.
Yep.
So, I just want people to realize that we're not, there's a lot going on here, a lot at
All right.
stake, so.
Well, if there's anything you don't understand, that's why I'm here. Okay, so, and don't be afraid to ask a question, because
Well,
you're not familiar with the phraseology or terminology. Just tell me what you don't understand, and I'll try to help you understand so you can make a decision too.
Mr. Kuzak was asking questions of information that I don't currently have.
Yep.
That I haven't reviewed.
Okay.
That was some of the information, and then I understand you want me to make a decision on whether or not he's violated conservation acts.
Well, from what I heard tonight, more than 60 days ago, the commission made a determination of the local bylaw. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing left for you to discuss under the local bylaw.
Okay.
That decision has already been made. So the only remaining issue is whether the area depicted on the plan is subject to the jurisdiction, is in an area subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act. And it's not my job to kind of find that for you, but if this is in a resource area, and it sounds like from what I heard that it might be, then the answer is probably yes. It's in an area that's subject to jurisdiction under the Act. So that would probably be a positive determination. The second question is whether the work depicted on the plan is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. That's a little bit different question, okay? You can decide, yes, it's subject to the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act and require the filing of a notice of intent for the work, or you can say, no, it's not subject just to the jurisdiction subject to the Wetlands Protection Act because it's already been permitted. I've heard some testimony tonight that there was a certificate of compliance issued after this work was completed. That's one possibility. I've heard some other testimony. I think Mr. O'Donnell said that there were 4 posts in the ground, that this is elevated. It's not having any impact. And doesn't and I assume that the inference was that it doesn't require refiling. You could find that too, okay? There might be something else that you think or don't know that I haven't brought up because I didn't come in for the very beginning of the hearing. I got here just after 8 o'clock. So if there's any questions I can answer for you, Mr. Dodge, I'm happy to do that so that you understand what you're being asked to vote on.
To help with that, 3 things, and they're all old, and tarp was cured, and I ripped the phragmites, ripped right through it, shredded it, removed it, phragmites grown back. What else would we do?
Can you speak up?
Absolutely. I got it. So, tarp was shredded by the phragmites, it was removed, and the phragmites is growing. So, what would you do in a normal situation with any group? You do not, that's done.
I mean, I don't know. I have not been to this property. I haven't seen this. I'm looking at the same photographs that were on the screen here tonight. If that tarp is gone, and it's been gone, or it doesn't exist in there, I don't know that there's an issue, unless you think that the area needs to be restored. If the area needs to be restored, then you direct the filing of a notice of intent to restore it. If it's gone and it's revegetated and it seems to be fine, then there doesn't need to be any order that any work depicted in the request requires a filing. I mean, it's moot. The issue is gone. It sounds to me like the only continuing issue involves this ramada and the extension of the dock or the pier.
Two areas here. Tarp on the left, you can see it's fixed. And right there is where the dock used to be. And it was, in March it was fine, and this is recent pictures, it's fine. So you have summer and like early spring and no impact. So those are over.
You mean
And
the
we-
flow?
We would normally even want it we would never spend this much time on anything like this. And then the Ramada, okay, it's a structure. If I go to the DEP circuit rider, he says, well, that's a structure. But I talked to the previous conservation administrator, he says, that's not a fuel bill. And I go, I agree. It's minor. It's just really minor. That's why we have a minor, but this form doesn't allow for that. This form is flawed. And I'm gonna have a say in that at some point because it needs to be considered by the state when you have something minor. Now, I'm not saying this is, somebody could use and misuse this. I think Mr. Cusick is using it correctly, as town council saying, but he also had gone and used this as a complaint, so he's a continuous complaint through this. Just be aware of that. He's able to do it, he's allowed to. We talked about the separation between salt marsh and BVW. You're really locked down. Bob and I talked specifically to Andrew Point, the circuit rider. It's only two things, +1 or -2. And Bob's just talked me out of doing any special conditions because nothing's really working.
Well, they're yes or no questions. They're not questions that need a long explanation or supplemental conditions because you're not authorizing any work. You're just answering the questions that Mr. Cusick posed to you. And that's really your job. The only other thing I'll say is that, and I wasn't here for this part of it, the last requirement for the filing of any notice of or request for determination is that the owner of the property be sent a copy of the filing. And if that didn't happen, then you are obligated to dismiss the request.
That happened.
Again, I don't know what happened, but, that is a requirement.
John, they have the stamp thing from the.
Yes,
We got it,
we know that, yes.
Thank you, John.
The owner was notified.
So, but I just said that it came in and you hadn't provided the hard copies for the commissioners or the digital. However, you gave us the original.
hear you.
John, okay.
Okay,
we have it,
we're
John. We have it.
we're going in circles.
Exactly.
Okay.
I can't hear him. If I can't hear him, what's he saying?
John, what she's saying is we've got it, we got your
I
answer.
can't hear you.
John, we got it. Thank you. We're gonna close this up now, okay? We don't get the third party, right?
So, I think I had a motion?
No.
Did I?
I talked. I wanted to talk, Bob talked.
Okay.
And Mr. Dodge talked.
Okay, I move that we vote to issue a -2?
Negative determination too, yeah. No special conditions. No special conditions?
Wasn't it a +1?
No, a +1 will be an NOI. Do you want an NOI?
No.
Okay,
A
then you want a
-2.
-2 only, no special conditions because Bob has
Yes.
opined.
All right, so I move that we vote to issue a negative determination number 2. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And you had to act on this in 21 days, or it was like you acted anyways. I already asked that question. I forgot to tell you that. So really, you had to do something here. The form is flawed, in my opinion. What's that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cusick.
Okay,
I always could hear you, but I couldn't hear Bill Crosby.
so.
I'm loud.
Chair Hannafin, we're supposed to issue a written, opinion, so I'll get town council to help me draft that up.
Okay, we will be issuing a written opinion, Mr.
Still
Cusick.
coming, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All
You've
right.
done well. You've done well. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Good
Very
night.
Bye-bye.
All right,
You'll see me again.
Definitely.
we're counting on it.
Okay, so moving right along.
Okay, next up, Town of Marshfield, 46 to 50 Bay Avenue. Where is the legal ad? Thank you.
Let me get the, please, let me get.
In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, to consider the request for an amended order of conditions filed by the DPW, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
So this is for work that already has been completed.
Correct.
And I believe that Rod would like to give us a little summary,
Right,
just
plan
to
is
make
up
sure I
top.
confirm the,
Well, I have a mouse so I can move and you still move it
I
on.
wanna
Rod Procasino, town engineer. The DPW is requesting this amendment to the order of condition SE 422808, which is our regional permit. And that regional permit, it documents historical work, repair work that we've done to the seawalls and coastal structures. It identified new work that we had on, that we had two new work. For example, 72 to 76 Bay Avenue, when we originally filed the notice of intent, was included on the original filing. And then also any future repair work, and we have typical details in that notice of intent. This was work that wasn't included, and I'm in the process of filing a claim with FEMA to try to get reimbursement, and I need to follow through with this request to include this work on the plan. It's, yeah. It was 109 screen. It was 109 feet of seawall cap repair that was, the work was performed in June of 2015, completed in July. And what was the name of the storm? Remember? 2015 storm? Juno. It's Juno. Look at that. It was 109 linear feet. It started from basically the stairs at Bright, and then it was right behind 46 and 50 Bay Avenue. This is Conrad, this is McCarthy. I included some pictures. We had gone in there and under the immediate emergency condition and plugged a hole with plates and sandbags, and then came in subsequent to that and made the repair. I'm also asking that this markup be the as-built. There's not a heck of a lot of additional detail required. All the details in the plan providing the typical repair. So this marked up plan, I'm asking to be the as-built plan. That would save tens of thousands of dollars, so we'll redo the plans over for this massive fact. FEMA wants a permit. He's got a regional permit that we thought out years ago. Region 1 goes from, like, I don't know, 40 Bay Avenue all the way to 164. It covers a ton of activities like we showed you right here. Rod brought this together all on his own, and you know, we got everything we need in perpetuity right here. This is the idea, is to bring these after the facts in when FEMA says a 2015 storm needs a permit. This is a solution. He's gonna need to have a partial COC on the valid permit, so he's asking you to take this as the as-built so he doesn't have to go redo it. The commission has the capacity to waive an as-built. I would recommend that you consider this. This is adequate for the needs of the town.
so if I may, I want to add for the record that we did confirm the butter notifications and the DEP number, and since it is the town, it is tax exempt.
Administrative requirements.
So, is there any discussion from other parties? Any from commissioners? I would recommend, as Bill...
Sure, I'll do that if you want. Yes.
Please, go
All right,
ahead.
so the special conditions would be as follows. DO, complete within 30 days of issuance of this order. Register both sets of orders with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. There'll be an amended order of conditions that will go out. Provide the Mass DEP sign and post to the Conservation Office. wherever the other sign is, add the word amended to it, or put up a sign, SC 42-2808 amended. Obtain all pertinent permits, such as Marshfield Building Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, and other pertinent permits. Later, observe, this is also appealable. There is a 10-day period with the state and 60 days with the town under the court system. Coordinate a pre-construction site visit, we'll waive that, it's already done. I'm gonna kill that. Remember to kill that in yours.
Okay.
So we'll get rid of it. During construction, you've done it, so we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of D2. Post-construction, we'll get rid of all that. Ongoing conditions as per original order of conditions, SE 42-2808 is permitted in perpetuity. So this work here, and I guess 2808 amended. That way, the original work and this amended work could be worked on again without them having to come back. And the reason that the emergency declaration didn't work from the state was it timed out, it was a 60-day window. Rod needed like 120 days or whatever it was.
Do we need to specifically state that we're waiving the as-built?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, okay, I'll put that in the DO. This, I'll tell you what. These plans, the approved plans shall be the as-built for the partial, the pending partial COC, okay? And then Rod's gonna be back on the 17th with that. And then he's gonna get to permit time. He took a 30-day, he got himself a 30-day window, and this is because we work together as a team. He's here before you. He'll get his permit with the COC. That's what they ultimately want.
All right,
And
so
that's
I'm going to propose that we, I'm going to file a motion that we close and issue an order of conditions with special conditions as Bill summarized for us. Do we have a second?
Second.
Chair Hannafin.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no one left to say no?
Make sure you get all this. There's a lot of shit that I made around here. Check that. Make sure you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
Nice job,
We
Rod.
enjoyed the
Thanks
wall,
for
Rod.
coming in. Especially knowing Juno. That was good.
Okay, Town of Marshfield, 1837 Ocean Street. This is a continued hearing, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Karen.
Hey, this hearing was opened at the last meeting, but, and we could not close this because of the lack of a DEP number. Do you want to change the screen, Bill?
I do. I can't wait to.
Yeah, and,
Thank you for reminding me.
and so we, in the interest of time, allowed John Zimmer to present the case, and we did the hearing, the application actually, and we did not vote on this. So what I'd like to do is just summarize this very briefly, where we're at. So this was an after-the-fact NOI for the installation of an emergency generator with a self-contained 580-gallon diesel fuel tank at the library plaza. Behind the library, it was repurposed from the old police station. We established at the last hearing that the project was necessary and vital to the building as it serves the community during shelter during storms and power outages, and also has a cooling center during heat waves. The total area of work is about 50 square feet. It's located within the 200-foot riverfront area of a perennial stream, which is a tributary to the South River. All work is beyond the 75-foot from the top of the bank and is a previously disturbed area, mostly comprised of a parking lot and absent of any vegetation. The stream is separated from the area with a chain link fence. The mitigation offered is 3 permanent conservation markers will be put at the 25 feet of the inland bank, and spreading conservation seed mix to help promote a naturally vegetated buffer, which will be an improvement to the area. In terms of the building permits, there's some outstanding gas and electric permits, as far as I know. John, is there anything else you'd like to add to that? Is he here?
John's here. I
Oh,
told him.
John's
I
not
told
here.
him that he didn't have
Oh,
to
okay.
come to
So,
this.
all right. So I hope that I summarized this correctly to, as it was presented last time.
Yeah.
Bill, were there any other, you had mentioned some,
There are a few things.
Yeah,
Let me,
okay.
I'm just writing one little tiny thing down, and I'm doing that right this second. Okay, so I need to be on the correct page, which I'm going to.
13.
Yes, thank you very much, 12 and 13. So as far as the special conditions go, within 30 days of issuance of this order of condition, Register both sets of orders, state and town with Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, provide evidence to Conservation Office, post a Mass DEP sign, and provide evidence to Conservation Office, provide the spill prevention, contamination, containment plan, SPCs, pay here, okay. To the Conservation Administrator, provide a signed copy of Stormwater Standard 10 illicit discharge form to the Conservation Administrator, construct a concrete pad as per town engineers comments dated July 13, 2022. During the construction, before commencing the work, okay, these go. And obtain all subsequent permits, provide mass. That one. Applicant shall observe 310 CMR. This is for the appeals period until applicable administrative appeal periods have elapsed. Coordinate pre-construction site meeting with Conservation Administrator or agent. I'm working with Fred Russell. During construction, ensure that best management practices and building codes are followed. There's no floodplain, no FEMA needed. Post-construction, provide updates to the SPCCP every 5 years to Conservation Administrator. This condition remains in perpetuity. Fire has also been on this, as you know from last time.
Great. Are there any further questions from commissioners that weren't addressed last time, or anybody from the public on Zoom or that has any questions? All right, seeing none, what I would, I'll make a motion to approve this, close the hearing and approve it with special conditions, which Bill has already read. May I have a second?
John?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, well done, that was nice. I like those.
Okay. Next up, we have 17 West Street, SE 422993. This is also a continued hearing, and I think Vice Chair O'Donnell,
Yeah.
you took this
So
from...
continued. I see
Thank you,
Mr.
Bert.
Savant. I believe we pretty much finished everything up last time, didn't we?
That's correct, yeah. I won't be doing any of that. We were lacking a DEP number, which we now have. And also, we talked about putting a cross-section for the proposed shell or stone driveway on the plan, which I have also done and submitted for the file. So that is all in place.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you confirm that?
I do confirm all that. The plan came in, it looks great. Rick is Johnny on the spot. Thank you, God bless you, Rick. He has been extremely efficient, and also what I've been finding is he's doing a lot of teaching on stuff too, so it's great.
Okay, very good. Comments from other commissioners? I hear none. Comments from the public?
What case do you want?
This is 17 West Street, Joe?
Joe, we're continuing Vasirka, just so you
Yeah,
know.
Wilson Road continued.
If you're here for that, it's continued.
No, I'm not here for that.
Okay, all right then.
So I hear no public comments. And standard conditions, Bill? Anything?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me just take a quick glance at that. These are all standard conditions. I won't, in elevation cert, because they're in the floodplain, during the post-construction, everything else is standard.
Okay, I make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Do I get a second?
Second.
Stay good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, Bill?
Yeah, got it. Okay, we're
Thank
doing
you,
that
Rick.
one too. Beautiful. Good work there, Rick. As always.
Okay, 18 Billings Street, 2994, also a continued hearing, and this is Joe?
It was continued. Bert did it
Bert,
last
did you
week.
also do
Yeah,
this?
Bert
Bert?
carried
Okay.
it, Joe, because
Oh, I'm
I-
sorry.
Bert covered
Yes,
mine
this
last
was
week.
Bert, yeah.
Sure is. It reminds me of something. There's a bunch of Mullins that Commissioner Reagan might have.
Yes.
You've watched the videos.
He's watched
I had
them.
the pleasure of paying the penalty and watching that video,
So-
trying to hear everything.
Yeah, that was a great one.
That
You'll
was
never
the
do that again.
technological
So
glitch.
he asked me where was the location, and they were all consecutive. I'm like, Liz had it below, and I'm like, right here. So he did West, he did Billings on, and then he did 1837 Union, Vasirka, and you did Powell, right? Powell's not tonight. You can do it again later if you have to do it.
No, I went through the whole thing.
5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you'll fill out the forms with Liz, so you'll need to make a journey down and get that taken care of, all right? Fill out your Mullen affidavits.
Okay, regarding Quinn, 18 Billings Street. Again, Rick.
Very similar situation. We were lacking a DEP number, but from my recollection and discussion, we covered the project and there really wasn't any questions about the actual project.
Okay, anything further to add, Bill?
No, I don't think so. let's see, there's siding. You know, these houses are in Berry Beach coastal dunes, so siding must conform to current building codes and the Conservation Commission requirement for openings to allow sand and storm water mitigation. Do you want that in there, or do you just want to let that be dealt with through the building department? It's a D2.
I'm inclined to leave it to building.
Leave that to, yeah, I
Got
would
it,
I would agree.
Kill the yellow. Very good. The rest of them are standard.
Excuse me, do I have a comment on this?
You get it in a second. Comments from other commissioners?
No.
I hear none. Comments from the public?
Joe Pasevich, 25 Wilson Road. My first, is there any plan or any photograph or plan available?
Yeah, Bill, can you
Yeah,
put
give
the
me a
plan
sec.
up?
I apologize. I'm not getting.
Thank you.
moved. This is Wilson
and what-
Circa. Bear with it. It's coming.
Yeah, while you're doing that, is it Billings Road or Billings Street?
Oh, it's
Billings
Billings
Road,
Street.
according to the...
Yeah. Road is advertised as street, but it's road.
Okay.
That's a clerical error, Joe. Good pickup, though. Thank you. What do you need? You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was out of town and I didn't get a chance to, I was out of state. So I just want to know what the actual project consists of. I see a ground level deck.
So what they're doing is they're putting a ground level deck along here. Rick, why don't you take it from here?
Sure, if I could.
Thank you.
Yeah, so essentially, just a small addition on the single-family home there. It's 10 by 22 on the right side of the home, and then there's a ground level deck between that and the street.
Okay.
Yep, all the permits will be filed with ZBA, and they're in process with the floodplain permit and all that.
Helical
Going on right
piles,
now.
and Joe, if you're sitting
On
commissioner,
helical piles.
it's hard to mitigate this property. The only thing would be to take out concrete. I talked to them, they want it. I can't see having that going up on helical piles. That's what we want in an area like this. You know, we know it's Berry Beach coastal dune. That means the water's gonna pass through underneath it. It'll percolate down. So, you know, reasonable use is,
So the existing building is not changing?
no.
The addition is going to be on piles, so it's
Helical
going to be
screens.
sort of like a higher structure, I think. Single story?
No, it should be matching the existing, so it's not gonna be elevated up.
So the base, the floor elevation of the addition is the same as the existing
That's the
building?
intention, yes.
What's the
Because-
AE then?
Because the existing building is like my cottage.
It's 8.3.
It's sitting on concrete blocks.
6.3, forgive me.
So, on something like this, Joe, it'd be an AE flood zone, so it's +1. And it says first floor elevation is 6.3, like Rick was saying.
Right.
So, I don't know what the AE is here, it's usually 9 or something.
This is an AE9, that is correct.
Did the building department tell you anything
They're
about?
under review, but my understanding with a project like this, if it's not a substantial improvement, which it can match the floor, it doesn't have to be elevated.
This
above.
is not
But
gonna be
it'll
habitable space right here, it's a deck, so that's different. And this is gonna be what, a sunroom or something over here?
I'm not sure of the interior, the homeowners are here, exactly what's gonna be inside this.
2 bedrooms, all right, so it's habitable. They may be coming back on this, okay, right here. I just hope that doesn't get involved, but,
Where the addition is, so that's like an open space underneath? There's no wall or anything like
That's
that?
correct. Helical screws.
It's just piles.
Oh, okay, that's fine. The only thing I want to say is, please, 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 I've seen this issue in my neighborhood. People are building driveways, they're building impervious surfaces, additions or whatever. The water is all running down the street.
Yeah, you're right.
My yard, the water is year by year getting higher and higher and higher, and it's not global warming. It's all the runoff. As you know, not large driveways, paved driveways on Wilson Road and on other places, all the water is flooding down.
One
and
sec,
it's
Joe.
getting
All
higher
you
and higher and
commissioners,
higher.
listen to this. This is a very important thing. I'm gonna tell you a quick story about that. That is absolutely right what Joe's saying. Keep going, Joe.
So that's just it, is that please manage the runoff on site. That's my only request.
So the
Bill,
thing you,
move the plan so it shows the impervious table. I think
And I
that's.
don't know what the percentage of impervious coverage here, but
I think
if there are if there are gutters, if there are swales or anything else shunting this water out to Billings Street,
it's okay.
I got a problem. Because it's unrelenting in my neighborhood, what's going on.
To answer your question, Bert, the impervious won't be on this because we took a snapshot of this. This is our first cut at it, and we just talked about it. Next time we'll give a whole copy of it. I'd have to burn out of here and go to the actual plan. The impervious is on here, right, Rick? How
Yes,
much
it
do
is. I
we,
can
read
go
off the
through it.
data, to the,
It is showing an increase of 483 square feet.
it's elevated,
But
and,
it
you know,
is elevated off the ground.
there's not walls.
What's the total on the lot, though?
The total, after the proposed work is 42.8%.
I talked to him about, getting this because I wanted to prepare him for this chat. They're probably at max build out, and depending on what building does to them, they may or may not have a change, you know. If they have a change, then they'll come back or they'll drop some stuff. It's multiple permitting here. I thought this was pretty good the way it was. I hadn't pushed to say there was a need for this because it's really this area, this bedroom area, is the only thing triggering habitable space. This is decking and stairs, so it's probably okay.
Okay, so we're at public comments. Were there any further public comments?
Again, that's all I have to say.
No, it's good
Please
stuff.
manage
Thank you.
the runoff, please.
I had a guy,
Can't do
he
this
he
anymore.
lives in the surf area, right? They paved the road. He's now flooded. And he's coming back to the commission for a pervious barrier to get rid of some of the water. So, yeah, you're dead on right.
And there's
Has this
no
been through
change of
ZBA?
grade on that lot, correct, Rick?
None proposed, no.
Has this been through ZBA yet?
No.
Not yet.
So you're out of order. That's
It's
an
been
issue.
filed.
No, let me make that point. Under 310 CMR 1005, they have to be seeking or applying for obtainable permits. So if you go to 310 CMR 1005, it's under the determination, I believe, and also the NOI section. You'll find it in there. And he just has to be seeking it, that's it. He doesn't have to have gotten it, it's seeking. Now, what we do, Joe, on the back end, is we catch it on the special conditions and we say, before you commence the work, obtain all subsequent permits. So that's a double whammy there, okay?
And who's gonna enforce the impermeable
The
requirements,
the impermeable,
surface requirements?
when they get the as-built, we'll look at this, and Mike and I will check it out, and you've seen we've kicked things back, right? Everybody knows.
So what's the commission voting on tonight?
They're voting on the order of conditions for this, exactly as is. They're not kicking it back to the building department, for what I'm hearing. But it might come to us, if the building department changes it, it'll be a de minimis activity versus a request for amended order of conditions or a new NOI, whatever. It seems pretty straightforward, though.
Okay, thanks.
So any special conditions, Bill?
I have the elevation cert and the standards. I didn't even think about taking this and asking whether or not it was substantial or not. We were going through a whole bunch of other stuff, and I know we have comments somewhere from
It'll
Andrew.
come back if it is, so.
Right.
It's,
Yeah, right.
That's
we
kind of
don't
what I
need
was
to
thinking,
determine
but let's
that.
just look at the building commissioner real fast.
Yeah, they have started the floodplain permit application, the homeowners are working through that. So they've begun that process.
He's submitted a floodplain permit on 8-1. He's submitted for an SBA permit. No construction documents, no further permits, I have more information, so Andrew doesn't have enough to make a determination yet, so, but at least he's applied for everything. It's in an AE9, that might not be compliant if it's not high enough, if it's matching the house. So that's the one variable, but that's caught through,
so if they accept this plan, we're done. If
they don't, they'll
they
be
don't,
back.
then it
We'll be
comes
back.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, and
any changes, yep.
And they've got a floodplain permit going, so this will change, this will come back to us or not pretty quickly.
But, excuse me, but can you condition management of runoff on property?
We talked last time
Downspouts.
about, pea stone underneath the deck and,
Well, there's two ways. You can do a French drain so the roof can then drop in as a French drain, and it just goes in as a sheet. Rob Nerger did this, Zigarella did it over on Grandview. They came back and asked me to do that. We used to require roof runoff all the time, but we had a couple properties where it's so saturated that it backlogged. If you have that hydraulic problem here, because you're closer to the salt marsh, it's very spongy. I wouldn't recommend it because then it's going to saturate it up. What we want to do is reduce hardscape. That's why I started to go after the concrete, but they want to keep it, and I didn't think that was a big push that needed. I did mention the commissioners, the only mitigation I saw was removing some of the concrete, but they aren't going there today.
well, we did agree that we're gonna move that concrete walk in the front.
Correct, there's
I know it's a
some-
small
yeah.
area, but
Yeah.
That stairs and the concrete walk
So-
will be removed.
Joe, if we have hydraulic water like you're talking about, and we send it to the subsurface, it's just gonna fill the downspout up, like that's what it's gonna do. It's like, it's a,
Well, not necessarily on these particular lots. I'm familiar with these lots. I've actually done some maintenance on some of these lots here. I
We
don't
could
see
go
that
for
as a
that.
problem. What I do see is at the end of Billings Road and at the end of my street, massive flooding.
you do have a problem. You have a big wetland down
The
there.
other side of Billings Road, that's, the iron staining you see on the ground there.
So you
And
could.
that's a problem over there, but not on this side of the street. This side of the street is relatively high and dry.
So what's gonna happen, Bert, is you're gonna punch out that thing by about 8 feet or whatever, by 22, and you're looking for a couple downspouts into the subsurface. That's the surface area basically right there. That's
Well, if they're putting pea stone under the addition, that's basically gonna,
I think that would probably be a good solution. Allow the water to percolate through in a sheet fashion, and if what Joe's saying is saturated, it's got to find a place to go down gradient and percolate downward. So I agree with you that that's probably adequate. Maybe they could put a French drain around, and I don't see how that's going to help.
Well, the pea stone is fine. I'm just saying, you don't have a downspout that goes right onto your driveway.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Just don't shunt the runoff directly
All right.
onto an impervious surface. That's
No,
all.
I agree. There's a
You have a
lawn over there.
downspout that ends at the base of the house.
You got a
where your
lawn
pea
over there,
stone-
Joe, and you got stone, as Bert's saying, under the addition. So those are both pervious. I don't think we can do much better. You know what I mean? To change out the thing and make it sand, we can't do that. That's too much.
I'm not asking you to
I know
put a
you're not.
French
I'm
drain.
just entertaining the conversation. That's all.
no, I think we're good at
Right?
40% coverage, I think is what's allowed, that's under planning. So they're right there. So they can't do any more, but we're good at what's there.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay,
All in
good,
favor?
okay, good, because I heard him.
Aye.
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 Apparently unanimous, Bill.
That one.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
See you soon. Okay, guys. Great.
Okay,
Thanks, Joe. Awesome as always.
17 Middle
Rick, well
Street.
done.
In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, to consider the notice of intent filed by Karen and Jonathan Parsons, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Wren.
Stop sharing.
Thank you. Bill, I think I need to confirm that the taxes, a butter notification, and DEP are on file.
That is correct.
I believe I saw them, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
This is a project that is in land subject to coastal storm flowage, the Barrier Beach coastal dune,
So we're gonna back up.
Barrier Beach coastal beach, VE 18, A03.
And then we go
And do we have somebody here who would like to talk about this?
here.
No one I hear.
Is somebody,
Good evening, Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering.
Okay. Hi. Would you be willing to give us a summary?
Absolutely. So.
Jed, I got the plan.
For the
Jed,
record, Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering.
Jed, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I
can
got
hear
the
you.
plan, I got the plan up and running here for you.
Okay, thank you. So this particular location is right along the Atlantic Ocean, as you folks are probably aware. The seawall project was just recently finished, which raised the concrete seawall over 3 feet. I don't have the exact dimension on that, but approximately 3 feet. And so as a result, this particular homeowner has an obstructed view on their first floor, finished floor elevation. So they're looking to raise the house up 4 feet. They were also below the flood elevation prior to the seawall being raised. So it's kind of really twofold. It's so that they can get their view back of the Atlantic Ocean, but also to get up above the
the FEMA flood elevation. The proposed layout really isn't changing at all in plan view. The owners simply want to go up. So we have a pile design from Rivermore Engineering. What is proposed is all 12-inch diameter piles for both the house and the existing deck. You know, we can zoom in on the property. We went over the feasibility of whether the house could be moved on the property to then drive the piles. Of course, all the utilities need to be disconnected as well. And we went over that with the most likely builder, and it's definitely feasible. So that would be the plan, is to disconnect all the utilities, move the house to the front of the property, install the new piles, put in the framing for the substructure, and basically put the house and the deck back in place with this exact same footprint that's there currently. It's just coming up 4 feet. Pretty straightforward. I guess at this point I'll open up to any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners? Bill, do you have?
Yeah, I got some comments. So, when the application came in, I found a couple of flaws with regards to the NOI. They had used the correct form. I talked to their staff, and they are very responsive, and they fixed it. Basically, they're calling it Coastal Barrier Beach, which doesn't exist. So please be advised, new commissioners, that we have certain things that we have as resource areas. So if somebody comes in and calls it a barrier bluff, a coastal barrier beach, those don't exist. It's barrier beach, coastal dune for a reason, because it's got a performance standard attached to it. So they did that. The forms didn't have, they weren't our forms, so they didn't have the chapter 294 and the 505. I just noticed that tonight. But they were expeditious about responding, and I thanked them for the substantive aspect of it. I asked to have the piles added, which they have done here. You do see that there's these weird note marks and everything like that. I'm not sure why that's on there. Maybe we can get that cleaned up. But these are the piles that are here, okay, for the new house, etc. Now, when I looked at this, I was wondering what this red component was. This could be the property line, I guess. Jed, is that right? The red is the property line?
Could you just zoom in on that, please?
I will zoom in on the one that I'm most worried about, which is over the seawall. Is that the property line?
Yes, that is the property line.
Thank God. All right, because you can't have anything over the over the seawall, otherwise it'd be a violation of bylaw 217. So we'll take that off.
Absolutely.
You know all about that. Okay, so the site plan is lacking the impervious table from what I can see. I've searched it and I don't see it. And that is a no-no for the chapter 505
Building coverage?
certificate of compliance, checklist, conservation permit checklist. So that is something that needs to be added to the plan. There's no detail from what I could see for this proposed deck, which is, all right, let me get in here. Sorry about that. I got so zoomed in. Yeah, bear with me. There's no detail for the decking, what's going to happen here, 2-story versus 1-story, and what kind of piles, etc. I see piles, okay, but I think...
Yeah, the piles are shown, yep.
But we want more detail, Jed, that's what I'm driving at. So this deck here...
When you say detail, Bill...
Jed, don't interrupt me, please. Jed, let me finish it and I'll take questions, sorry.
Go ahead, sure.
Sorry, just
Yep.
I'll get it all out and then you can just come from there, okay, like we always do.
Yep.
So this deck here was a prior deck, and there's a massive seawall project going on here that's about to complete under Rod's regional wall too. There's an easement in here, and there's a right-of-way that's been signed by all these property owners in here. So that has to be factored into all this and be referenced. The detail on the deck, we need to know more about it. I would suggest a cross-section or something so we can see what the footings are. I'm assuming these are wood piles, am I right, Jed?
That's correct.
Even the ones over here, are they wood piles?
They're all wood piles, yep. There's
all
a note for typical there.
But it's not, I don't think we actually have that on there. So we want it to be wood piles on there.
It is denoted there.
So it's proposed 12-inch diameter pile typical. Or is it say wood?
I'm sorry?
Where does it say wood? Okay, so,
We submitted a copy of the Rivermore design with it.
okay, I got it, very good, so I don't have that ready here. So the detail would probably come on the Livermore design plan. All right, so, let's see. All right, so this references, as I saw down here, Jed, you've got VE 18 here, and you got an AO3. You see these two floodplains here? This is kind of important. So because when the VE 18 overlaps with the property or the building, a higher standard applies, okay? If you look up at the screen, you'll see what I'm talking about. So the VE 18 kicks in right here. That means the higher standard applies. Everything should go to +2. Are you building, is that 24 going to, at 20.4 going to match up? That's going to match up slightly above the VE 18. I'll give that to you. There we go.
Right.
All right, so that we have. And what are you doing for siding around here, Jed? Have you got any plans on that? Because water's supposed to be all percolate through as per sand, and what's going on underneath the whole thing? Because, you know, we prefer to have pervious, and we don't know because we don't have the pervious table.
Understood. So right now, it's really just loose gravel. The owner does not have an architect on board in terms of, you know, doing any kind of re-siding or re-roofing. It's really just a raising the existing house. So there's really no exterior envelope work planned at all. There's no additional work planned, you know, for the site itself underneath the existing house or the proposed. Basically just leave it as loose gravel as it exists there currently. So really no change there.
So, it's hard to know. I mean, it's basically going to be improvement because the piles. You're going to have a reduction. You're going to go up. You have open space underneath. But we got to have the impervious table because what happens is if these people sell, somebody pours concrete underneath like we got at 13 South, then we got a problem, you know? So we need the impervious table to hold that true. Right now, it sounds like it's all cobbies underneath. I forgot, it's not cobbies, I forgot, it's like more involved than that, right? Yeah, so let me get the pictures. I thought, let me just go see if I can get something else here real
So
quick.
the engineering drawings do say timber piles.
Yeah, I'm not looking at those, and he's got me there. He definitely said he did.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that one, I need the pictures here. Here we go. Let me get a couple pictures here. We got. Oh wow, locking up will be great. Look at that. That's what we're gonna test. Hang in there. There we go.
Jed,
I'll give you a typical picture.
Jed, were they going to replace the deck or just lift it?
Just lift it.
So that's not a replacement, and it's basically the whole unit is going up in the air.
Exactly. No change in plan view.
Here's what you got right now. That's
Yep.
probably underneath the piles here. So this will give you a pretty clean shot, right? You're not going to want.
Yes.
You can see what's happened. The neighbors have had concrete in the past over down in here, and they got that back as per the subdivision or the seawall project 2819, which is a subsection of Rod's regional permit. All right. So these things were allowed to come back, and then we told them, everybody did, they would need new permits if they changed anything from what originally was there. So the DPW could get out, file a conservation certificate of compliance request, get that done, maintain the right-of-way and the easement, but then these guys could come in with brand-new permits, and that's what's happening on this deck here. Well, we don't have the details, so it would be good just to know. Jed, am I wrong about that? Is does Rivermore actually have a little bit better description in it? I'm gonna try to get those open.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got a pretty detailed drawing set.
Okay. I'll get in there and let's see if this is over. All right. Yeah, here we go. Let me give you this. Stop share and start share. This is where the details are.
Doesn't define the impervious table or underneath that.
Here's your construction sequence. Here you go. if you're okay with that, then this moves forward.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't see was the impervious table.
Impervious table, and also the other thing on that plan was they referenced the wrong FEMA. They referenced the 2016 FEMA and not the July 9, 2021, which changed in a lot of areas, so this should be VE 18, and I think they had VE 13 or something at one point down the bottom of the plan. Let me go get that, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, see, start share, so let me figure out where this.
It's correct on the site plan though, right?
It's, what it is you depicted it, it depicted VE 18 and AO3, but down the left-hand corner, what happened was we actually had the, give me a second. You actually had the old, you had the 2016 reference.
Oh, yeah, the firm, yep.
Right, so.
We can, no problem. We can
Yeah,
adjust that.
right.
You're right.
So.
And then we can add in the pervious versus impervious, not a problem.
Jed, is that legitimate to take a picture like that? You're an engineer, you know best. Is that okay like that?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner, you got that. So here's what I'm talking about. Item 3 right down in here. We want continuity on these because this is a VE flood zone because it's overlapping a portion of the house and therefore the whole structure then falls into that based upon what Jim Volker told me and showed me in 780 CMR. So we want to help out with that. Other than that, I don't really think we need to go backwards on the plans again. Jed, just make sure that everything that comes to us has got Chapter 505 and Chapter 294. I really appreciate you guys speedily getting this back to us. These little things are pretty minor. Great job on the Rivermore component. Thanks for being responsive about getting the piles in here. Could you do us a favor and just add on the site plan wood typical, okay, right here, and maybe kill these, whatever these things are, okay? And get the impervious table on here and fix the comment down there, number 3. So it says 7/9/2022 and, or 2021, sorry about that. And maybe 12 noon Friday and it's a wrap.
Great. I appreciate that. Not a problem. So yeah, if you folks would be amenable to, an approval subject to receipt of this information, that would be much appreciated.
But one more time, 12 noon Friday, this Friday, what is the date? August 5th?
The 5th, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking for that because we're going to turn the orders around quick. We have a lot of stuff coming, Jed, so we need to get it out the door. So we always say 12 noon Friday if we're having a conditional close like this.
No problem. So I'll get you the electronic copy, and how many you want of the hard copy?
Two of the final hard copies because you're done, and then one digital to Liz and Mike and me.
Not a problem.
Thank you. You guys good with that? Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay, I think this, and so we'll reference the right of way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm with the counting on that, so I guess general conditions would apply, Joe?
Yes.
And then elevation cert, and we're also gonna reference that the right of way and the easement from the town also applies, okay? General plus right of way and easement together. From 642-2819. That was it, just that one item.
I
And
believe
the
so.
elevation cert. Okay, you got it, Joe.
So does this go for a positive number 5 and a negative number 2?
Did we do
with
that
special
here?
conditions?
Did we do that to you? No.
No. So there's nothing on this.
Yeah, I know. So what
NOI,
this is,
so it's just
is
motion.
Oh,
I
just
was-
close
I was
then.
planning on
It's an
continuing.
NOI.
Yeah, because he
But this is
was
also,
gonna
the other thing is.
continue, but it's not.
I thought it was a continuation, so what I said was general conditions, which I could read off another one, and then add in, that DO, we would have that the, right-of-way and the easement associated with SE 42-2819 maintains itself, because there's an area where the DPW has to work to get in there, so that has to be factored in, and it can vanish a bunch of different ways. And then under D3, we'll also require an elevation cert because it's habitable space, and that's what we typically do under D3s. We'll get this done.
So we're going to close the hearing and issue order of conditions.
Well, it sounds like, I saw some
With
nods
the-
here, with the Burts, and then,
And
and a new plan, a revised plan by 12 noon Friday the 5th.
Yeah. with the additions that you've suggested.
All four of them, yeah.
Yeah.
The wood pile comment, taking out the yellow sticky note things, making the 11/4/2016 to 7/9/2021, and adding the impervious table.
All complicated because they were very responsive.
Correct.
Yes.
They were focused on responsiveness and,
Which is a wonderful thing.
yeah.
So can we entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue orders of conditions with the 4 provisions as Bill outlined? Is there a second?
Second.
Dave?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing everyone say yes, this carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jay.
Jen.
Thank you,
As
Bill.
always, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
Next up is a new hearing in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd. To consider the notice of intent filed by John Griffin on 21 Hartford Road, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Karen.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
good.
see, we do have a DEP number, and can I confirm administrative requirements are complete? I believe I saw that in the file. Yep, okay, so all administrative requirements are complete. So this is a notice of intent for the construction, filed for the construction of a new deck and landscaping beds and adding a children's play set to an area identified as land subject to coastal storm flowage A03 flood zone. So this hearing initially looks pretty straightforward, and I don't know if people got, the original site plan that came didn't have measurements on it, but a new site plan was provided. Did people get a chance to see that? I'm sure that you did. Anyway, I can provide those numbers, or we can probably put up if we need to. So the project, I'll actually ask Greg to discuss this further, but the project as proposed doesn't look complicated in any way. However, we do have one outstanding issue that is a problem that could complicate this, and I'm going to bring this up right now so that we don't, waste too much time and you can address it. Prior to the submittal of this NOI, on May 15th, there was some unpermitted land clearing with an excavator that was taking place. There was a cease and desist order ordered by Bill, and the applicant, Mr. Griffin, was very cooperative, came in and went over possible restoration plan and plantings discussed that with Michael, I believe. So the result of that, it was a business item, not a hearing. We requested a planting plan by a qualified wetland scientist be submitted with a restoration plan, and that an after-the-fact NOI be permitted, would be, filed with the restoration plan. However, we have never seen that restoration plan, and that was never completed. In the discussions with Greg Morse, about this problem, he does not feel that this is coastal dune. What my concern is that the existing plan that we have does not, it doesn't show any, doesn't indicate the limits of the coastal dune, doesn't indicate whether it's within buffer zone, coastal dune itself, or none of the above, in which case there's some question about whether we were required, the applicant should be required to do a restoration plan. Bill, could you put up the pictures of the
Yes,
excavation?
absolutely. Give me 1 second.
So,
Here's your plan, but I will do that.
we've been sort of wrestling with this throughout the day, and what I've discovered throughout the day is that the Plymouth County Survey soils from 1969 do categorize this as dune, which is defined as dune land and coastal beach, which leaves us in the uncomfortable situation of needing to confirm that. Or, so I would like to put this out, do we want confirmation of that and continue the hearing? I'm thinking of the pictures of the.
Oh, okay, I'll do that too. I'll get them
yeah.
all up there.
So we have some options here, can request a continuance while we get additional confirmation of whether or not it is in fact coastal dune or not, or discuss whether a restoration plan could be submitted. in lieu of that. So I think I'd like to just discuss that before we go further, because if you choose to continue, then you might not want to get into too much further. So,
Pull up pictures, you
yeah.
just Google, you know?
So,
It's great, and then it isn't. We're trying to prepare stuff.
so people clear about what my question is? Would you like to speak up? Sure,
Sure,
Greg.
absolutely. For the record, Gregory Morse, I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering, representing the property owner, John Griffin, who's directly behind me, and his wife, property 21 Hartford Road. So just to kind of discuss what you had
Right.
just brought up. It was just brought to my attention last night through an email that this is a potential site that has a coastal dune on it. When I did the survey at this site, we did not witness any coastal dunes here. I know the commission has looked at several applications in this neighborhood and have never considered these coastal dune areas. It's not a mapped coastal dune with Mass GIS. It's not a mapped coastal dune with FEMA. It's not in the building department as a coastal dune. Absolutely, if you look at the soils maps, what it does say, it doesn't say that it's a coastal dune, but it says that there could be sand deposits there that could be associated with the sand.
Is this from the same soil survey we're talking about?
Yes, the web soil survey from NRCS online.
That's not what we're talking about. It's actually what we've been advised to look at is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Plymouth County. So I have, well, I actually received conservation. Would you like to address this? I'm sorry. So go ahead. You continue.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
if I can continue. So the fact of the matter here is, what we're proposing is extremely minor for the project. We're proposing a deck,
Agreed.
which
Right.
is some sonotubes for a deck, and then we're proposing a kid's swing set in the backyard.
Right.
It's not new structure. It's not a new house. It's not a new foundation. Absolutely, this was brought in because the client had gone out and removed some vegetation, and we have pictures of the vegetation that was there. What was there for vegetation was dead, was weeds. It was nothing of any significant vegetation nature. This site is removed significantly from the beach. It's in excess of 100 feet from the seawall. It's more than 100 feet from the beach. There were two houses between this house and the beach itself. The topography of this site is flat. It's flat as a pancake. There's no ridge of sediment there. There's no mound. There's no hilly topography of any kind. So even though I disagree that this is a mapped coastal dune, and it's never been considered such by the town of Marshfield, even if it was, what we're doing is we're planting 6 arborvitaes. So we're replacing what had dead vegetation with new vegetation. We're putting up a kid's swing set over the existing area. We're not altering the ground surface in any way. We're not changing the topography or removing anything. And we're putting in, I believe, 8 sonotubes to support a deck, which is customary in that location. It would be compliant with flood requirements. So I'd like to move forward. I don't think we need to get into the nitty-gritty of whether it's a coastal dune or not. It really doesn't matter in this application. If we were proposing a foundation, I think we might really need to nail that down. But DEP has reviewed this. They've issued no technical comments with their response letter indicating it's a coastal dune. And this commission has issued multiple orders of conditions in the past on several of the abutting properties without coastal dunes. So we'd like to move forward. We think what we've proposed is something that could be approved. I know Mr. Griffin came before this commission back when he first came, I think it was in May, and discussed whether mitigation was necessary for the dead vegetation that he had removed. What you would see on our plan is we proposed a split rail fence to cordon off that area where there still is vegetation so that there'd be no further encroachment into it. That area that was disturbed, he's already restored with 6 new evergreen plantings on the site. I don't know that you need any additional plantings. If you do, perhaps it could be a condition of approval. I don't know that we need to continue this to another night, another hearing. I turn it over to you.
Okay, I just want to respond. I agree with you that the project itself, the structure, the deck and the elevated shower and the fence, none of the structures that are proposed in this NOI to me, would be changed at all by whether it was coastal dune or not. It's not a substantial improvement, and I think that I can probably say with confidence would be agreed with everybody. The issue is just, Bill is concerned about that we, because of the amount of clearing, the unpermitted clearing that took place, and we thought that we were going to get a restoration plan that was part of the business item, and whether or not,
You want me to
right.
take it over?
Yeah, so this is, that's my concern, is how we resolve that, and whether, if that can be resolved, if we can agree on that, or do we want to go?
So here's what happened. So I'm working on another permit at 29 Hartford, and I look over, and I really apologize, especially the new commissioners, because even though it's on the Google Drive, you could have seen it for yourself. I'm trying to pull it up, and it's coming up as an HEIC, and the thing won't launch. So that's why we're trying to come up with a method. You see some of the stuff going more smoother? We're getting there, so we really apologize. There's clear damage to this whole place. There's a 13 elevation and a 12 when you look at the state's or the town's elevation contours. Now it's flat. Something happened to 13, okay? In the back, there's vegetation, it's in place. And also right now, there's American beach grass growing back. You might say, yeah, it's a weedy plant, you can put it in a parking lot, it'll grow, etc. That plant wants to live there because it thrives in that environment. So in the back corner where they're putting the play set, okay, right now, that is where I found evidence of Rosa rugosa that's been cut by a bucket. Somebody went in, cleaned it out, and it doesn't clean, as you know. It knocks it over and then it springs back up. That stuff's missing now. There is other spots where you do see American beach grass coming back. So it occurred to me, wow, we have a problem here. We need to get a restoration plan. It could have been really minor. And I talked to the homeowner. It was really reasonable. He came in on the 18th. He was great. The commission was wowed with him. And they said, look, we want a restoration plan. And the motion said we want an after-the-fact NOI. And what that means is that's a form of enforcement, okay? Double the fees, which we didn't get here. And the restoration doesn't go down the road of Form 9, and then he's at $300 a day. We didn't want to do that, want to cooperate with them. So they go away, they come back now, and what do we get? We get proposed work, which Susan's saying is pretty normal. Had they not flattened to level everything, and had the commission not asked for the restoration plan. So this is probably a dune environment based upon this right here. So let's see if my mouse will work. It likes this area here. See this? This area here, which is dark and we can't use it very well, refers back to a number of pages which call out. Right where I am, that's going to be not dune. Right in here, okay? That's going to be dune right there. And it's called out. It'll be an AO whatever. Specifics will be long and detailed. We have an expert or two that can interpret that. I could spend a little more time. I didn't really want a soil survey, but I did mention it to Greg Morris that maybe that's the only way to clear this all up, because he says it's not a dune, and I think it might be. And I'd be more than satisfied to just live with it and say that's a dune, have it restored, and then figure out which portion of the proposed work where it might work in on the property. So long as it allowed percolation of water into the subsurface and allow the transference of sand and water. That's the performance standard for dune. 310 CMR 10.28. So that's what we got to go with. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Hold on, I'll just get through this. So that's kind of that. And then the commission actually called that out. And now we're getting it's getting watered down, shall we say, you know? So we could go do the soil survey and require it, and the commission could, or you could not. Commissioner Dodge last time said we should do everybody. I don't really want to do that everywhere. I don't think this one's big enough to be the criteria either, and I don't even think the work's that bad. I just think the commission wants a restoration plan embedded in with this proposed work, and some of the stuff might have to move around. That's pushing the limits of the dune.
I'd like to comment on the, sorry, go ahead. No.
I think the applicant has something he wanted to add, and then you can.
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin, sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin, what's your name and record?
John Griffin, 12 Hartford Road. We own 21 Hartford Road. First of all, I think you do, most of you remember, sorry, 2 new board members, you don't. When we meant to final agreement, this is seriously a disconnect in communication, and I need to articulate this because I'm not only frustrated, I don't think I can continue to understand all the language that's used because it's complicated, all right? I told you I was the finance guy, I wasn't the conservation guy. But what I can tell you is this, is that when we left that meeting, and I have the minutes provided by Bill, Madam Chair, you put a motion forward to allow the arborvitae's to be planted, so I didn't lose the $2,000 worth of plantings.
Right.
Thank you, which why they're
They look very good.
They're doing, yes, you noticed that as well. And we also was to put an NOI. That was what the motion was that was approved and what Bill provided me. When I met, my wife and I, by the way, Janice, okay, she's having a nervous breakdown over all this, by the way, but no, at the end of the day, we met, we were originally going to meet with Bill, we ended up meeting with Michael. Bill was occupied with other things, obviously, and Michael was in good hands, he said, so we sat down. I will tell you, Bill, Michael, not once did we talk about a restoration plan. We talked about an NDR, like how to fill it out. We went through the application process, how to fill it out. He gave me this guy's name along with 12 others. I picked one. I went through the plan. It took me 8 weeks. So I get the frustration, and I'm more than happy to plant what you want me to plant. But the continuation is, I've lost a whole summer now with my kids not being able to be on a playground. I've got weeds growing everywhere all over the place. So what I'm asking, Madam Chair, and the team here, is to allow us to move forward with, I guess it's a condition, that we'll sit down with these guys to put whatever is required. But I have a picture of my property. I shared it with this group. It was flat, desolate, and not a live thing. And I can bring in 9 neighbors who abut the areas that will re-communicate to me the fact that this thing was dead and we're bringing it back to life. So Bill does his job well. I love his passion. And Mike, I'm sorry if I miscommunicated. That was not the intent. But at the end of the day, this seems so simple, and yet here we are in August, and I'm just flabbergasted. So I will shut up now. Madam Chair, back to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Susan, back to you.
That's all right.
Yes. So barring all that, would you do the restoration plan?
Pictures of existing.
Yeah, what is it?
I don't know what that means.
No one's ever
There was
mentioned
nothing,
it.
Bill.
I mean, I would have hired
I'm
him.
sorry, I
Help
missed
me
the
to
question.
understand what I'm restoring when everything was dead.
Okay.
Help me to understand what I'm restoring when everything is dead.
Very kind, he came in, he was good, everything was
No.
flying well, and maybe we didn't go and say, qualified wetland science, what it's gonna mean, how you're gonna actually blend that in. Do you want me to?
Well, that was my impression, that there has been a communication breakdown and a lack of understanding.
And
that
I
he just wanted
apologize
to
for that.
use
That was
some-
never an intention.
I get called out for doing too much. Everybody knows it. So I try not to say too much. In this case, sorry, I didn't say there's a restoration plan, this is how you go. You're not doing mitigation, you're not doing replication, you're doing restoration, and explain it to you. Now I'll spend the time with you.
So,
Are we open for discussion?
1 second, I just want to finish and then I absolutely will. I'd like to see that picture circulated of what the original conditions looked like, because we only saw it when it was cleared with the excavator there.
Yes.
Like what I couldn't load
So
up. and
it
it's-
typically in a
about that.
coastal dune, that would make us crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because we have requirements that we have to, we go by
And it might be,
guidelines.
Mr. Griffin, because
So-
that says it's a dune.
So,
Bill, that's
All
a
right, so-
different conversation about restoration and what I'm being restored. So I get the point about what you're saying about the dune, but to restore, the picture that I have, which was prior to the project being started, was a flat leveled surface with dead vegetation.
I think the problem is using the word restoration when there wasn't much to restore in the first place. And I think what perhaps we should talk about is maybe some mitigation for unpermitted work that was going
Yeah,
on.
mitigation,
That's all.
plantings,
So add
or
some additional
restoration,
plantings that would enhance the flood value protection of your property. It is an AO3 flood zone.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's coastal dune or not, anything that, when you put native vegetation in an area like that, and you've got a big lot, it's a nice site, and I
And
think
you and I
there's-
talked about those
we did.
native
There's a lot
vegetations
of
that I plan to
opportunity-
put in.
Right. I think
Bill's
there's
lacking
opportunity.
that information, so I apologize. So
There's an opportunity
And
to.
likewise, I'm not sharing it. Sorry.
My take on this is an opportunity to improve conservation value by adding plantings.
Oh, yeah.
With that being said, I'll put this out to the commission for comments, and someone had a comment on the end?
Yeah, so.
Ken, you did.
I'm just confused with definitions. So the town of Marshfield currently does not recognize this as a coastal dune. Can you
Well,
answer
it's-
that, Bill?
It's kind of tricky. So this is the case-by-case area that Rebecca Haney was talking about here earlier. It's about 3 miles long, and it's about 3/4 of a mile wide. And what's happened is, just so you guys know, a project came before the commission long before anybody was here, and a land court went forward, and this area, they found it to be dune. It has the right properties. This is the 1969 Plymouth County Soil Survey. It shows it's dune. One of our experts has looked at it and called that out. Now, the other way of figuring it out is to go in and plug holes in the ground and determine that. We actually don't want to get into that, because that could change this whole world forever on the house too. So we just like the restoration, which now we're going to refer to as mitigation, which is similar, very similar. It's plantings, you'll take care of them, they'll be native, they'll be dedicated, they'll be protected for perpetuity, and they'll do the job of maintaining the flood control in this environment. And that's sort of why they're there. It's an offset to the other activities that go on, which would be the planting beds, which they may percolate the water through, the play set, et cetera. But believe it or not, Joe Pesovich and a neighbor got involved over a swing set, and it went on for 7 years. So I know it's crazy, but it happens. So the things can become problematic. We just had something over less than a square foot of stuff, and that is all I'm going to say.
All right.
May I propose
Yes.
a solution to this?
Yes.
If I understand correctly, everything we're talking about here is all the construction that Greg is proposing, let's call the playground construction for argument's sake, would all be done the same way if it was coastal dune. The only thing that's different is we're asking for some mitigation planting.
We're changing it from restoration plan to mitigation for unpermitted clearing of land
To make it
within
simple.
our jurisdictional area. That's what I'm sort of
Yeah, that's fine.
floating out there and
We
proposing.
could move this forward with approving the project and then adding the mitigation.
You need to
Because
qualify
we're gonna
well,
wind-
since we got 21 days to issue it. I think you continue, get it on the plan, approve it next time, and I think that the back corner where the playset is would be a good location. Now, I'm not a qualified wetland scientist, okay, but it's happening on the other side of the property. It makes sense, and that's where the 13 elevations were.
And I think part of the problem is that we've historically never looked at this to the degree that we have to now. And that's part of this whole thing is, we've not answered this question, not as a group of us, 7 commissioners, but historically, and now we're being kind of pushed in the direction. It doesn't, for me, this doesn't impact the outcome of this project.
Exactly.
If we declared it all coastal dune,
It wouldn't
we would
change.
still approve the project the way that it is
Right, exactly.
proposed to us. And I understand from you that you're willing to do anything that works so that you can get your deck and your swing set.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. We went over the soil samples in a hearing 2 weeks ago at 17 Oregon, and we had a sort of, that was when the soil sample requirements came up. I am under the belief that it's not within this board's purview to demand a soil survey. I think that they could suggest one to a homeowner to, in your case, further a project. Like you said, Joe, that this really wouldn't matter in this case. So it's not. I just want to get it out there that this, like at 17 Oregon, I think erroneously required a soil survey there and didn't have the authority to do so. It's not pertinent to this
Let
case.
me
but-
just say
I
that
think we need to
the
clarify that.
Conservation Commission's job is to designate resource
I
areas.
certainly agree. I certainly agree with
And
that.
if we need a soil sample to do that, the burden of proof is on the applicant.
I think unfortunately
And we can require a soil
I think
survey.
unfortunately you guys are incorrect there. I think that you have to go by the definition in the 505. and that
No,
would be-
we
I
are
think you guys are
entitled
incorrect.
to
You're
ask
entitled
an
to ask for one.
applicant.
You're entitled to ask for one, but you are not.
So-
You cannot.
But then we don't have to approve the project.
You certainly don't. You
don't
certainly
have to
don't.
approve the
You
project.
Good, just for all due respect. So what could happen is, let's say everybody lined up like that, and they didn't require the information, a majority of the commission might deny it because they didn't get it.
100%.
So what I'm saying to you is this, is that the burden of proof is on the applicant every day of the week, and they have to provide the information that's asked. If they don't, the commission could solely, based on that, for lack of information, deny. It might not be held up by the state, but they might in the court. And in the case of the one down the road, it was held up by the court.
I agree with what you're saying, and I'm just saying that we'd have to go by the definitional requirement of a dune, or show something, that would suggest otherwise. And like you said, everyone on the board could deny it based upon, incomplete information, that they didn't believe that someone rose to the justification of you know, this is a dune, this is not a dune, but in my opinion, you should not be requiring soil surveys for
So the
projects.
threshold of information would be this. We all know it might be a dune because the website shows, okay? It's so everybody uses that, Barrier Beach Coastal Dune, it's broadly known. You're here, you're in Beverly, you're up in Newburyport, you're on the Cape, it's basically known. Then there's this 1969 survey, which is very, very reliable, but nothing replaces a field survey. And I don't think we want to get into doing field surveys everywhere. There's got to be a criteria, even in a case like this. I think Commissioner Karen's trying to strike a fair balance and get this done. And it sounds like this applicant's willing to do that. I'm not even one wanting to ask for a soil survey, but if we get fighting on this, then it's probably going to be in a dune, and then it's probably going to change its construction rule going forward, and you don't want to get into that.
I agree that it might not be pertinent to this, but I think it was an important thing a distinction to bring up, that I just do not believe that it's
If it's not pertinent to this, we need to move on. It's very late and we're not finished yet. And let's stick
it came up in here, it says
to the
specifically
topic.
asks about a soil survey, so it sort of is pertinent, but, you know, it doesn't affect the outcome of this case, I should say.
No,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we're
I think we
moving
need to
on.
move
Let's
Um,
figure out
thanks.
what
Everybody was
Yes,
chair.
yes.
Everybody.
All right.
Mr. Griffin wanted to speak though, and I think that's a way to conclude.
Does anybody else have any questions? Because we do need to move on. It's late.
Yeah, no, I was just hoping that we could move forward with the
Yes.
recommendation for the plan as it exists with
Mitigation.
Yes.
Mitigation, and I'll teach you.
Jesus.
Mike and I'll teach you
I
everything.
think I understand.
All right, a mitigation to put,
Yes.
I just, again, the word restoration would have suggested I had to bring it back to what it originally was,
No.
and it never was.
You don't want
For as long,
Commissioner
I can tell you 10 years for a
Karen
minute.
is
I think what I'd like to do is put a motion on the floor so that we can move forward. And I don't know if we need to continue. Why couldn't we put this in the special, we could have
As soon as you close, you have 21 days.
special conditions, though. We could have special conditions.
But you'll never have seen any of it, and you will not know what the plan is gonna be.
Well,
But Bill,
I think
excuse
we
me,
do
special
this.
conditions is putting extra plantings
Well,
in, right?
I think we do that pretty frequently. We put
We don't.
special conditions to add plantings. And, well, we're talking about mitigation.
We don't have we don't have a qualified wetland science, we don't know who the qualified wetland science is gonna be. We haven't looked at it. It could be a procedure.
I think we could do that as special conditions.
I know we've done, we're talking about some mitigation here,
All right.
and I think that this is a result of a misunderstanding, and it will
particular
not
case,
affect the outcome of the
I
project.
don't believe we need a qualified wetland scientist to do a mitigation plan. I think we can write it in to conditions.
I will make a motion that we,
They're perfectly willing
to work with us.
to work with us.
Yes, I think so, to
Let's
resolve
let
this
that
misunderstanding,
happen.
and we don't have to delay the project anymore. So, I would like to make a motion that we close the hearing and issue special conditions that include mitigation plantings.
So, basically, we would have before commencing the proposed work, you provide a mitigation plan satisfactory to the conservation administrator.
I agree. People agree with that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, with a minimum of 4 years or 5 years of monitoring.
What? Years? What?
How many would you like? 2 or one?
I'm not gonna say 4 or 5 years.
All right, so 2 is enough? Annual monitoring? Yeah, monitoring. No monitoring? It's just gonna die. That's what happens.
Well,
I don't think so.
Okay.
let's
No,
not belabor
I think that
this.
we can require the mitigation plantings as prior to the
Mitigation
commencement
plans
of,
for the conservation administration.
yes,
Okay.
um,
All right.
in this instance. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Thank
It's closed. But you do have to work with Bill.
I need that
Come
by
up.
12 noon Friday, you know that, right? So we need that plan, so we'll have to get together.
The special
Pla-
condition was for
the-
plan.
For mitigation plantings. So you would like to see a list of those plantings and the locations?
I thought
By
they were gonna
Friday?
give us they're just gonna, they need to work with us put it on the plan.
Could we put that on the site plan? Could you
And
get
just
that by
go
Friday at
over me,
noon?
and we'll go from there.
Yes, okay.
We'll find out the square footage, we'll make
I
it
can
happen.
provide some native plantings, but I'm happy to provide.
Thank you, you did, and I know the ones I want to pick, I will
Yeah.
just put them on the plan. I'm good.
You
Are we
did do
good?
that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, 1125 Ferry Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, our public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, to consider the notice of intent filed by Joseph and Lee Masley for the construction of an addition, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
Thank you. I did go and visit this site. Most GPS systems don't take you to where it is. And when you look at the street address, it is nice green.
I looked
I
at that.
love this place. You can't find it. But I did eventually find it, and I believe that all of the work that is proposed is outside of the jurisdictional areas, but close. So I would like to ask, I think it looks like Mike, are you the one who did this?
Yeah, I can.
Rick Grady, from Grady Consulting.
1 minute, Rick, I'm going to get to you.
Okay.
To confirm that the abutters have been notified and taxes
The
have been paid.
abutters have been notified, taxes confirmed, and DEP number issued.
Thank you. And I believe that we have Rick Grady here to guide us through this project.
That's correct. So this is an existing home at 1125 Ferry Street, which you get to from Indian Road, not mostly Ferry Street. There's a bordering vegetative wetland that was delineated by John Zimmer, as depicted with the flags and the dotted line on the plan. There is a portion of flood zone in the wetland area, AE 10, so everything below the 10 contour. Basically, it's behind the existing building on the site. The proposed addition is in the outer portion of the buffer zone. Foundation wall is proposed 82.7 feet from the resource area. A deck attached to the addition is proposed at 77.9 feet from the resource area. The addition is also separated from the resource area by the existing outbuilding, and it's located in an area where there's existing driveway. So there's actually very little increase in impervious coverage because a large portion of the driveway is being removed to accommodate the addition. So I think overall we have about a 30 square foot increase in impervious coverage in the outer portion of the buffer zone. They're also going to be upgrading the septic system with a new Title V compliant system. However, that will be located entirely outside of the wetland buffer zone, approximately 120 feet to 130 feet from the wetland resource area. Very little grading. Erosion control is proposed to mitigate erosion and sedimentation during construction. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
I have one question, Rick. Your addition is going where the driveway is, and that means loss of driveway space. Is any of that being replaced?
We do have a
Be a number of
proposed edge
cars.
of pavement on there. They have the garage as part of the addition. So what they're losing in parking outside, they'll be gaining in garage parking inside. And we will be connecting the driveway to the front of the addition as shown, where it says edge of pavement there by the green line.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? Any from members of the public? Any from online? I have not heard any. And so to that, I would like to make a motion to close this hearing and issue order of conditions, and ask Bill if he would at least summarize which looks like standard conditions.
These are all standard. Rick, the reason he brought that up is because special condition A says any changes would require, permission from the commission, that's all. And it looked pretty tight, so, as long as they're not changing anything back there, then they should just go forward with the plan. They seem like they've got it under control. These are all standard conditions, they're not in the floodplain. Where do they understand that?
No permits
Partially
haven't been
said
filed yet.
Property's partially located but need a structure, so, right. He hasn't seen him yet, so they've gotta go visit him. We'll catch that on the agenda, subsequent permits. Postmaster DEP sign. We didn't have any special conditions about flags or anything. They're cutting a little bit past the wetland flags, and maybe that should cease. What's happening is, if you look at this wetland line down in here, it's sort of straight. They've actually got paths that they're digging in through the wetlands, and so what's happening is the neighbor over here, Susan, huh?
What, conservation markers?
Well, I was thinking either that or something, because the neighbor over here is the one that you had, Susan, and he filled the whole lawn after the trees fell. He's on Elm Street over here.
Yeah.
Yes, that was an RDA. So I was just thinking maybe something along there might be good. Maybe along the tree line or something. They shouldn't need to go much past that.
Yeah, I think that would be acceptable. The applicant is on the call as well, so they're hearing you as well.
The posts just say don't mow beyond it. It's an honor system, don't go past it, etc. But, we want to preserve the stuff. You've got a really rich environment of skunk cabbage and high bush blueberry and red maples. So we want that to thrive, and you'll have, just makes it nicer in general, the property more beneficial. So if we can get the markers maybe along the tree line, that'd be good, say 4 or 5 of them. One over by flag 5, Rick. Maybe one here by, say, just beyond 6 where the tree line bends out. Near the 82.7 distance, maybe one. Over where it says buffer and wetland, and then back to the property line, down by wetland flag 12 or whatever that thing is. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we'll have on the front end post, okay, 5 conservation markers along the tree line. Okay. And can we get that plan back 12 noon Friday, August 5th, so we can keep you going and get the orders turned around?
Yes, we can. We've heard that date a few times tonight.
Thank you, Rick. We had a bunch of continuations due to lack of technical review, so we were able to do this, and some needed plan, some didn't.
Okay, so we have a proposal for a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Good.
And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good job, Rick.
Left
Awesome as always.
carries.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we are
Busy room now.
We are on to requests for certificates of compliance.
Right where your fingers are.
The first is SE 421763, 459 Highland Street. I move that we vote to table to August
we weren't gonna make them do it.
17th until the after-the-fact NOI is submitted and approved. May I have a second?
Second.
All in
Who's that,
favor?
Ken Dodge?
Aye.
All right. CH and 7.
Okay, 13 South Street.
Right. So I have your conservation use restriction. I want to hand that out. I hope I got enough. Did you hand me that?
I had
Handed it out.
Oh, great, thank God.
What do you,
So this is the
that.
property that's got the 3 special conditions. They fixed special condition D, they pulled out the covered flood vents, which is a typical practice, okay? People block it up. So that's done, D's finished, physically handled. E, we came up with a solution, Attorney Fournier came up with this deed restriction based on the language we have used in the past, and I don't see any problem with that. That takes care of special condition E, which says it can be no higher than 3 foot 10 inches underneath, and the qualified consultant says it's 3 foot 10 up to 4.3. Not a big thing. Let's cure it with this. Over. That takes care of that. So we're back to special condition G. So I'm recommending tonight vote on this, accept it, and make special condition E go away, which is the height under the dwelling, and then that's done. And then we're just focusing in on G. G is the one with the cover underneath. And I thought we were going to get to close tonight, but I found out from Attorney Fournier that the building commissioner wants to provide some feedback further, and I think Attorney Bard is here, who represents the buyer. So Attorney Forney represents the seller. He's been doing the front end legwork. Attorney Baird represents the buyer, so it couldn't hurt to hear from him on special condition G. But I would just focus on proving E tonight, and then we'll get a continuation on the 17th. You should have the information.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, Madam Chair, my name is Michael Baird. I represent Liam Lowney, who's the buyer here. First time appearing in front of your commission in this capacity. I apologize for my appearance. I was coming from something else, coming for the scout thing, you know, the scout leader and lawyer in one day, right? How often does that happen? Yeah. So I'm not going to add really much more to what Bill has to say. Yeah, we would ask to continue to August 17th so we can confer with the building department.
What is the reason for the continuation? Because I thought, from what I heard from Attorney Fournier, he was ready to break the area up, take the stuff out, and that's what the commission would have wanted. I heard this. I heard that they want a 3-foot lip around the interior so they can hang kayaks and stuff like that. That seemed like maybe, if the commission's okay with that. So I thought that was fine, and then you're solved, and it's over tonight. But it's apparently another visit, so I don't exactly get all that. Do you understand? Have you been in touch with Andrew, or?
I did, yeah. I spoke with him briefly. I believe that any improvement that we are going to make under there, since it is sort of more of a standard foundation with flood capabilities, it's essentially moving a floor from that standard foundation. So it will require a building permit. Mm-hmm. So we just want to basically confer with him, make sure that we are doing what we're going to be able to, is in compliance with building, building code, and then present it to everybody here as a.
So you're planning to take it out, though? Is that what I'm hearing?
If that's allowed under the building code, then that is something that we have talked about. So we've talked about removing it completely. Mm-hmm. We've talked about doing the ring that you've addressed. Talked about breaking it up into smaller pieces. I don't know that my client is thrilled with that option, but we are looking at sort of those main three options.
Well, I think that everything would have to come out in order to satisfy this, except maybe the 3-foot lip, around it, so they can use the space underneath. That's what they asked, not that I asked.
I mean, I'm fine with the deed restriction, but it seems to me that if you are going to remove that flooring, the deed restriction is somewhat moot.
That's fair.
Well, no, because what'll happen now is with that coming out, it'll be bigger. So the deed restriction takes care of E. I would not recommend passing that by. Close that one out.
I mean, like I said, I'll do it, but I
obliterate it.
believe this slab is only 3 inches thick.
Yeah, but it's gonna make it, you're gonna go lower. So the 3'10" became 3'10" plus inches.
Yeah.
And now you're totally out of compliance. The E makes it go all the way. It obliterates E.
Yeah, I think this is why we should talk to the building department about it.
Okay.
Well, special condition E, this is just a matter of a height thing. Okay, that makes that go away in both cases.
Yeah, I believe,
So-
yes.
So that resolves both, whether it stays or goes, and quite frankly, it has to go because of Wetlands Protection Act and the Conservation Bylaw requirements, okay? And the special condition, it clearly states it has to go. Back in the day, if you take the old building code standards, they didn't need to coordinate with the Wetlands Protection Act, but now we do, and the commission still has to use the most current regulations, state and town, and it's gotta go, because special condition G says it. The commission really can't change that, and Bob Galvin's weighed in on that already.
Yeah, yes.
So the sooner we get it out, the better, you know what I mean?
So, well, but it's gonna require a building permit, and I don't.
There you go. So
Right,
what
okay.
we'll say
So-
is, so that'll take some time, so we can't issue the thing, but, we could continue it just pending that. So now you just got special condition G.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
But the thing is,
we'll do this, we'll
Yeah,
do the
tonight
deed
was to
restriction
isolate
now,
G.
and then you can confer with Andrew and figure out what needs to happen and come back.
And just for the big message, the commission wants to approve this thing, but that's gotta come out. So whatever you need to get it out, permit, whatever, get it out, then it's done, that's obliterated, you get your certificate of compliance.
Fair enough.
Right.
All right, I move that we vote to approve the deed restriction to satisfy special condition E of the order of conditions SE 4/1917. May I have a second?
Second.
Excuse me, SE 42/1917.
Yeah.
Second with that revised, just for the formality.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Another thing off the list, good, all right. Sorry it's going through so much for you there.
And now we need to vote to table the request for certificate of compliance to allow time for the building commissioner to provide additional information. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
All right, so.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that you had
we
to
have to
sit
go.
here
That's fine.
until
I always
after 10
That's
o'clock.
the
Ordered a while, and I always
Okay, get it, get it.
Well, you got to hear about Couch Beach anyway.
What's more, I was more felt bad for the guy with the thing.
With the building that. Thank you all.
Thank you, good night. Okay.
What did you find most entertaining?
SE 422773, Escobar at 1185 Ferry Street. Okay, we have out-of-compliance activities. So I move that we vote to direct the Conservation Administrator and agent to coordinate a corrective action plan for the out-of-compliance activities.
Thank you, Chair Hannaford.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, that was an easy one.
And lastly, we
Going to August 17th.
have business item B9, 987 Ocean Street Enforcement Order. We are tabling this.
Yeah,
I move that we table this to August 17th.
yes.
May I have a second?
Second.
Joe.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just gotta get a meeting with Regal and that'll be done. It's
Okay.
a housekeeping item, Bert. Get you done.
I move to close the Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting of August 3rd. May I have a second?
Second.
Bird.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, great.
We are adjourned.
Be careful.